920-226-8958 or visit oldsaltdisplays.com. Your booth, your brand, done right.
If you owe the IRS or state $10,000 or more, the stress can feel crushing. You may even worry about getting misled by big national tax companies that care more about quotas than people. That's exactly why ClearPath Tax Strategies exists. We're local, not some 800 number 3 states away. We're an independent team of experienced CPAs and attorneys who share your conservative values and believe that every tax problem has a real solution, one that works for you. We will fight to get you the lowest possible settlement, but nothing changes until you take the first step. Schedule your free consultation today and finally understand your options. Call 262-786-4442. That's 262-786-4442 or visit cptstrategies.com. ClearPath Tax Strategies. No judgment, just results. Take back your future and get the IRS and state off your back.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The temperature will reach a high of 39. Tonight will be partly cloudy with the lows of 28. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny with the high of 49. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and Pam Bondi was there before the House Judiciary Committee yesterday. And to say it was a bit chippy would be to understate it. Pam Bondi takes what Besant does in going tit for tat with his inquisitors. She took that to the next level yesterday with respect to the Dems and Thomas Massie, who asked pointed questions or more often just made direct rebukes of Bondi. And also, there's a lot of recycling of allegations that have been addressed over many years, including under the Biden years by the FBI there, particularly the allegation that a driver made against President Trump. We'll get to that. It started off constructively. She did Pam Bondi, with a message to the victims that were in attendance, the Epstein victims in attendance.
We've released more than 3 million pages, including 180,000 images, all to the public, while doing our very best in the time frame allotted by the legislation to protect victims. And if you brought us a victim's name that was inadvertently released, we immediately redacted it. All members of Congress, as you know, are invited to visit DOJ to see for yourselves. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Epstein survivors who are here today. I'm a career prosecutor, and despite what the ranking member said, I have spent my entire career fighting for victims, and I will continue to do so. I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster. If you have any information to share with law enforcement about anyone who has hurt you or abused you, the FBI is waiting to hear from you. I want you to know that any accusations of criminal wrongdoing will be taken seriously and investigated.
Yeah, the ranking member there. I mean, that was constructive. If you're still in the process of doing damage control from how the Trump administration chose to handle this with the missive issued by Bondi, and that's the end of it, everybody move on, that happened last year. It just fed, and it was really an unforced error by the Trump administration. It just fed the mistrust. It fed the conspiracy theories. And so here we are 9 months after that, 8, 9 months after that, and we're basically running in place. And that's what it was yesterday, running in place. The ranking member that she referenced on the House Judiciary Committee, of course, is the noted Steve Van Zandt impersonator Jamie Raskin. And the exchanges between her and the ranking member were somewhat less constructive, but a lot more entertaining.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything.
did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Okay, 312-642-5600 is how you give us a call or shoot us a text. You don't tell me anything, you washed up loser lawyer, not even a lawyer. I mean, yeah, he was a law professor sort of in scare quotes at American University. I think she meant in terms of an actual practitioner. Anyhow, it didn't really get better than that when Jamie and Pam were exchanging pleasantries.
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with... You don't, do you?
I'm going to teach you the rules again. You're the Attorney General of the United States. We have rules here.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
You're
the rules...
obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time restored.
I'd like my time restored. In your district. In your district. And you don't even know about it, about keeping children safe from online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. The gentleman can proceed.
Yeah, and I want the whole country to look at this.
Gentlelady can respond if she wants to.
Thank you, Chairman. He called Chase Mulligan a wild goose chase and didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own district who preyed on girls.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, you know what? If he were part of the Epstein investigation, you wouldn't do anything about it.
Online chat rooms and committed sextortion. Yet he didn't even know in your tiny little district who he was.
Mr. Chairman, she's embarrassing you.
He's about to be
This is your committee, and she is embarrassing you.
on you.
The time of the gentleman has expired. I would remind the committee that last Congress, Secretary Mayorkas was here numerous times, and he wouldn't answer our questions, even when we sent them to him ahead of time in writing. So that's what we've had to deal with. I think the Attorney General is doing just fine. We have votes shortly. I will go to the gentleman from Virginia, and then we will take a break to head to the floor.
That was a helpful comment from Chairman Jim Jordan there. I remember when we had Ellie Mayorkas here, and he wouldn't answer any questions. So you're going to attack her, and she's going to attack you back, and you're sort of going to be two ships passing in the night. You're going to launch this criticism, and she's going to fire back with some failure that exposes your hypocrisy. And we're going to do this for a few hours, and then we'll grab lunch and, retire to the congressional parlor. 312-642-5600 is Chicago's morning answer call-in line and text line. A couple more, and then we'll get to some of your calls, too, just for the fun of it. She forced one congresswoman out of the room altogether, did Pam Bondi. The understudy to Comrade Bernie there in Vermont is a congresswoman we've talked about before. She's bubbled to the surface a couple of times. She, because she's particularly shrill. She's sort of the shrill version of a socialist varietal. Becca Balint and Pam Bondi. Oh, no, she didn't. Oh, yes, she did.
Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once, when he was...
Weak sauce.
Also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning...
Oh, is Jewish. I just want to be clear.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust? Really?
The committee will be in order.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and then Miss Balint exited stage left. You'll remember Becca Balint from famous intonations like this one.
Labor, and of course, we have have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people.
See, we need open borders so we have people in this country to wipe our asses. One of the more profound arguments for open borders, sanctuary jurisdictions, abolishing ICE you're going to hear. John in Libertyville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thanks for taking my call, Dan. I just wanted to say I'm really disappointed in President Trump and how he's been handling this. You know, even from before right now, he was talking about how this was a hoax, and there's nothing there. But, I mean, I've been reading through the emails myself. If I were him, I'd get rid of Pam Bondi and Cash Patel and actually start prosecuting people because there's a lot of stuff in here that's very strange, and I think it needs to be investigated. If Jeffrey Epstein was a cannibal and if he was killing babies, and a lot of the coded language in the emails would suggest that some very weird stuff is going on, and it seems like the people running our country are pedophiles who are satanic and engage in, I don't know, the worst stuff imaginable.
Yeah, thanks for the call, John. I mean, you know, Pam Bondi is a blunt instrument. I'll give you that. I don't think anybody is going to make the argument that Pam Bondi is one of the great legal minds of our time, if we're just being honest. She's a blunt instrument. And she is what Trump likes. She is an attack dog for him. But I also don't think that she colors outside the lines. I don't know that it was her idea to try to issue a memorandum and tell everybody to move on, and that was going to pass muster, that she thought that. I don't know that that was, you know, something that was her sole purview. Within her sole purview. She's a little shrill herself, I think. Some of the back and forth could have been a lot more productive if you frame this issue. I mean, yes, all the people up there are hypocrites, all those leftists. I mean, and yes, she made the point. This goes back to the Obama, frankly, George W. administration. So that context is important to properly frame it, not reframe it, just properly frame it. But then you have to transition to, and we're in charge now, and here's what we've done, this Department of Justice, this administration, that, the other presidents, Republican and Democrat, failed to do. And this president specifically, because, of course, he had history with Jeffrey Epstein, and history that, generally speaking, paints Trump in a pretty positive light. So we have nothing to hide. We have no one we're protecting. Here's the problem. We inherited this descent into some underworld, as John was describing, and we're trying to have tried to unpack it and see if there are cases that we can make. Evidence, that we can clear the reasonable doubt standard to bring a case against some of the people who are mentioned or named in all of the exchanges, in all of these documents, videos, and so forth. And at this point, we haven't been able to do it, which is why I go back to her first statement to the victims. Like, look, if anybody has information that is actionable or you think is actionable, then bring it to us and we'll hear you out. We're interested to make cases where we can make cases. Unfortunately, a combination of statutes of limitations as well as just the lack of evidence has made it very difficult to make out cases against some of the high-profile people, or maybe not even so high-profile people, that are mentioned in these millions of documents and other material. If you could have just had a moment where you're not just sniping back and forth with Jamie Raskin and some of these other room temperature intellects, and really address this substantively, I think it would go a lot longer way to settling the matter, or at least conveying to the percentage of the American public that is reasonable. Okay, these are not people that are hiding anything. They may have made a misstep in trying to move on. They need to bring us further along in terms of what they understood after having 500 lawyers spend tens of thousands of man hours reviewing all of this. But you just never got to sort of a summary distillation of what they've done, the approach they're taking, what they would like to have, what they don't have, what their perspective is, generally speaking, what their attitude is towards the names that are mentioned. You just didn't get that because they were too busy going after one another, like it was like you're on a CNN panel or something. All right, well, we'll take more of your calls here, a few more of the exchanges at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 26 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Kane in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Officials say it could be days before train service is restored following a derailment that happened Wednesday morning. Heavy equipment was on the scene working to clear a pathway for workers to get to the overturned train cars. Ridgeland Avenue remains closed between Southwest Highway and Washington Street, and Central Avenue is closed at the railroad tracks between 107th and Pleasant. The Border Patrol agent accused of shooting a Chicago woman last October has been placed on administrative leave. Officials say that move is consistent with the agency's policy. Agent Charles Exum was placed on leave just one day after body cam video was released, which seems to agree with Miramar Martinez's account that she did not crash into ICE agents with her vehicle, but rather Exum crashed into her car before he began shooting at her. Martinez's attorneys say they are filing a lawsuit. And this report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle Cox started Blindster in his garage back in 2010, and since then they've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters nationwide. Their blinds are DIY friendly, guaranteed to fit, and always cheaper than big box stores. Blindster.com.
Alex Marlow wants the country to stay productive.
The algorithm is what we need to fear because it is what controls our minds, what controls our brains, and it controls our time. How much time do I have left? I don't know how much it is. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't want to spend it on TikTok. So I hope President Trump comes up with some way to make the algorithm a little bit more productive. Got to keep an eye on this. We need to do better as a country and as a civilization.
The Alex Marlow Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Scott Jennings at noon on AM 560. The Answer.
40,000 people. That's enough to pack Wrigley Field. I'm talking about 40,000 people who realized hip and knee surgery wasn't their only option. There has to be another way. Guess what? There is. They found it at QC Kinetics. An alternative to surgery. I know this because I've met these patients. They are moving better and hurting less thanks to QC Kinetics' advanced regenerative treatments. Surgery isn't always the answer. Do your research and talk with my friends at QC Kinetics. They offer natural treatments backed by real science. They will activate your body's natural healing power. Safe, natural, non-surgical. Osteoarthritis only gets worse, so don't wait. Get started this month. 40,000 people can't be wrong. Before you choose surgery, talk with QC Kinetics and tell them Dan Prof sent you. That's me. Call today, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. Once more, call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait and don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then they help you do more with it. Start filing today. in the Credit Karma app.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The high will reach 39 degrees. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 28. Tomorrow is said to be mostly sunny with a high of 49. As we head into Saturday, anticipate a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Chicago's Morning Answer. Happy to have you. Happy to be back. A couple days off. So we're talking about Pam Bondi's testimony before the House Judiciary Committee. And there were some substantive issues raised. You know, Tom Massey from Kentucky and Ro Khanna from California have been this tandem that's been driving this train. And the additional disclosures and the critiques of the redactions. And there was more of that this week, including yesterday in an exchange between Massey and Bondi. It started with Ro Khanna on the House floor just talking about basically the idea that there are people being protected, the names of powerful people, billionaires that have previously been implicated, maybe even considered a co-conspirator, although an unindicted one to this point, like Les Wexner, the head of L Brands. He's a billionaire, Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, all this. And there's two billionaires that are of particular interest. Les Wexner and Leon Black of Apollo Capital Management. Because both had business relationships with Epstein in terms of and helped to address the question, where was all this money that Epstein had coming from? Well, largely it appears to be Wexner and Black. Why? Why did Wexner 30 years ago allegedly give Epstein power of attorney such that he's buying properties and selling them back to himself under Wexner's name on his dime? Wexner ultimately accused Epstein of stealing more than $100 million from him and got restitution for the alleged stolen funds shortly before Epstein died. And then the stories about Leon Black and the allegations of him abusing young girls, I mean really young girls, are disgusting, are horrific. I don't know if they're true. And another guy that was, hundreds of millions of dollars between him and Epstein. And here again is a case where why is Wexner's name being redacted? This was an issue that both Khanna and Massey raised. And the larger question, as was raised by a caller before the break, is, you have pretty severe allegations, not pretty, extremely severe allegations against some people. And you've got, these phony baloney royals from England to Scandinavia that are under pressure and perhaps should be under indictment for their relations at the provision of Jeffrey Epstein or just their relations generally with him. I don't think that princess from Norway, right, was engaged in any illicit activity, but she had a unseemly relationship with him. Well, we don't know. Obviously, there was a woman involved in this whole scheme. Her name is Ghislaine Maxwell, and she's serving 20 years in prison, and she invoked the fifth when offered the opportunity to come forward in full disclosure, everything she knows, and she takes the fifth rather than deal with the federal government and perhaps strike a deal for a reduced sentence. So, that's strange, too. There was all this talk. Ghislaine, well, why isn't there an effort to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell? Why isn't there an effort to, use her to climb the food chain here? Well, there was an effort made, and she invoked the fifth. But Ro Khanna first.
You have in England the king now calling for an investigation and possible prosecution of his own brother. You have in Norway the princess who no longer has support to be the queen. And yet in the United States of America, we have someone in the cabinet, Howard Lutnick, who is all over these Epstein files, who allegedly had business with Epstein after he was convicted of pedophilia, and he still is in the cabinet. We need to ask ourselves, are we in America going to have elite accountability? Are we going to call on rich and powerful people who broke the law or cavorted with a pedophile, a convicted pedophile? Are we going to call them to account? Are we going to have prosecutions for billionaires who went to this island and either raped underage girls or saw underage girls being raped and didn't say anything? Are we going to have investigations? I'll tell you what this is about. It's not just about the 1,200 survivors. It's about 2 tiers of justice in America. It's about people who can accumulate wealth and power and don't have to care about the rest of America.
Yeah. Now, again, as Ro Khanna living in a glass house on this issue of 2 tiers of justice? No, sure he is. Was he willfully blind when his party engaged in lawfare on any number of levels? Actually, all of them were nicely documented by Brandon Gill in his exchange with Pam Bondi yesterday. I mean, just briefly, this went on for 3 minutes, one after the other. It was very good, as Brandon Gill is. He's becoming a real go-to guy for the complete picture.
Series of questions for you that we can get through pretty quickly, I think. Can you tell me, is it true that the Biden-Harris DOJ raided President Trump's home?
They did.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ allow Jack Smith to spy on over a dozen Republican members of Congress?
Absolutely.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ seize the phone of a sitting Republican congressman?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ and Jack Smith pay at least $20,000 to confidential human sources to provide information on President Trump?
At least.
At least. Did the Biden-Harris DOJ and FBI fail to apprehend the suspect who placed pipe bombs near the Capitol ahead of January 6th?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ target parents as domestic terrorists?
Absolutely.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ target pro-life Catholics, going so far as to interview a priest and a choir director?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ send FBI SWAT teams to arrest pro-life advocates with no criminal histories?
Yes.
And it goes on from there. So, you'll spare me the faux moral high ground Ro Khanna and his Democrat socialist buddies pretend they stand on. They don't. They are standing on a high ground comprised of sand. Now, okay, so we cleared that out. Now let's get back to the substance of this issue, too. What he raised in terms of the protections, the alleged people that are being flacked for by this administration, which I don't believe, but the mishandling of courts creates the suspicion. This was a back and forth between Thomas Massie and Pam Bondi on the same issue, and it got more specific. You've heard the 6 names that were redacted.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
That was Bondi. I mean, that was Patel.
Is that your position as well?
Video setting that up for this question.
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because
time
this
when
is
you don't,
bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question the way
this
you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of incongruous response that I think is problematic from Bondi there. Okay, so now you want to talk about AI deepfake porn, or do you want to talk about the nice try? Point is this. These 6 individuals, and they went back and forth on this, like when we realized or when somebody alerted us that these names were redacted, we unredacted them, which is how we know the names now. But you redacted them in the first place, and so that's evidence of some sort of cover-up, some sort of conspiracy. I don't think so. I mean, the names mentioned, as most notably Les Wexner, is already a name that is been in circulation for years and years. And there are questions that surround him. And it would have been much more interesting to say, of these 6 individuals, starting with Wexner, what is the problem? So it started there, but it never goes anywhere for the most part in these hearings because everybody's just grandstanding to get their clip to post on their YouTube page to use to send out, solicitations to donors. So why isn't there a case against Wexner? So do you believe he was a co-conspirator? Do we not have evidence? Is it a statute of limitations issue? I mean, do you believe what Kash Patel told Senator John Kennedy in that other hearing, the clip that was played at the outset of that clip, the clip that set up Thomas Massey's question, do you agree with Kash Patel? There is no evidence. That's what Kash Patel testified to under oath. There's no evidence that Epstein and Maxwell trafficked women to anybody else. That's what he said. And so that seems to be the Department of Justice's position. And I don't know. That may be true. Again, the evidentiary standard of I'm a prosecutor, I can't ethically bring a case if I don't believe I can make out the charge above the reasonable doubt threshold. And maybe that's the case. But if it is, then Pam Bondi should just recite that and say, look, Massey, if you have any evidence that we could use that implicates Wexner beyond what we have, which you've seen, then give it to us. You're not presenting any evidence of criminal wrongdoing by Wexner, by this the DP Worldwide guy, that Sultan. There's a couple other names that were mentioned. They're all out now that there's not even any information on. They were just on an NYPD list from an investigation 5 or 6 years ago. At least in the public domain, I don't know anything about Salvatore Nuara or Zarab Mekaladze or Leonik Leonov. Who are these people? That would have been more interesting to discuss. So that we have the complete picture coming into as much focus as we can bring it with the information that we have that you and 500 lawyers have poured over. That's the sort of substantive, adult level conversation that could have been had. But there's nobody really interested in that, at least not inside the Beltway. 312-642-5600, Chicago Morning Answer call-in and text line. Tony, Downers Grove.
Hey, Dan. This is like the third one that I've watched in the last 6 weeks, and these are petulant clown shows, and they're embarrassing. And I agree, Bondi could handle herself better, but it just seems like it's a big gotcha show. And they don't want real answers. They want gotcha and for Bondi to look exposed. And they don't really want to talk about the issues. I mean, I saw the Balin. I saw Goldman, Moskowitz, Garcia, Crockett. And I saw this whole second half. And it seemed like Bondi her facial expressions it was classic. I mean, it was childish, but she gave back. And I think when they were her, she was trying to point out their hypocrisy. That's That's what I saw.
Well, that's right. That's exactly what she was doing. But as you said at the outset, and as I've been saying, that doesn't take us very far.
No, but Dan, why the 12 survivors that were in the hearing? That is a bad look when she says they'll interview any of them. You've got 12 people raising their hands saying, "Well, we've tried, and you haven't talked to us." And
well, I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that that's the case.
Well, that's what Goldman tried to expose, and he did the whole grandstanding, and they were there to raise their hands in their white shirts, and that's where it's frustrating, because they don't want an answer. If she tries to answer, they don't want the answer that she's giving, and she also tried to point that out. But you're right; they're not serious, and I just don't understand it. I don't know if they're hiding anything, but I don't see how these hearings go anywhere. They are clown shows. My favorite was when Garcia was talking to her, and she just kind of blew into the microphone and said, "You're going to talk to me about corruption?" It was classic.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Yeah, this is her and Chewy getting it on.
Thank you, Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, glad you finally made it here after hiding for 4 months from this committee. I understand why you're hiding from us.
Chairman?
You're one of the worst attorney generals in our history and an instrument of Donald Trump's lawless authoritarian agenda, and I'm glad the American people are seeing who you are, how you act, and the lack of good values. You weaponize the Department of Justice to target immigrants, working families, and anyone that Trump deems an enemy of the state, all to protect real powerful criminals, including in your administration. My Democratic colleagues have focused on your cover-up of the Epstein files and your passion for protecting pedophiles and child traffickers. That alone is grounds for impeachment. But there's so much more to your corrupt tenure as Attorney General. You directed prosecutors to investigate elected officials in welcoming jurisdictions, and you got thrown out of court when you sued Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois. You directed prosecutors to prioritize low-level immigration cases while gutting enforcement against corporate criminals and public corruption. You revived draconian
You're
law
talking
of
about public corruption to me?
1798, which should be repealed.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. But that's what you're dealing with, Chuy Garcia. That's what you're dealing with. So if you say, well, you know, why can't we? There has to be a better process to get to substantive value-added information for the purposes of a better understanding of what has happened and is happening. Well, not really. I mean, it could be open-ended, but then these hearings would go on for days. It might as well be the filibuster of yore. I mean, they would have 15 minutes of just repeating themselves over and over and over again with their canned strings of bromides and ad hominem. The only way that it gets better is if you send better people to represent you. And that doesn't look like it's going to be happening anytime soon. So, I don't know. Better people holding themselves out there and actually getting elected who want to deal on the merits. Better people in the parties, in mediating institutions that demand better of their elected officials, that step into the breach when elected officials are not giving you better. That describes a sort of robust representative republic that there just doesn't seem to be much interest in. So, I mean, the good news is it doesn't take majority. It just takes a motivated minority. It's the motivated minorities that change history. Always has been. But I don't know. On the side of free minds and free markets, I'm not even sure how motivated that minority is that I'm a part of. I think everybody, not everybody, but I think the great majority is content to watch the WWE version of politics and consume, stay in their echo chamber in terms of the content they consume and be titillated by superficial influencers who think that every Bondi utterance is a flame out and everything, takedown. And the same on the other side with every Raskin or Kana or Swalwell utterance. I'm sorry if I can't be more optimistic. Jerry in Milwaukee.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. This is really disgusting. Today's Congress makes the Jerry Springer show look like the Last Supper. What a waste of time this is.
Thanks for the call, Jerry. Makes the Jerry Springer show look like the Last Supper. That's pretty good. I'm going to have to steal that, but I'll give you attribution, Jerry. Today's Congress makes the Jerry Springer show look like the Last Supper. Yeah. It's pretty good. And I tell you, even as chippy as it wasn't even exciting enough to keep Jerry Nadler awake. Did you see Dr. Sardonicus? He was fast asleep. It's all so banal. It's just what they do. Boring. Coming up at 6:06, that Canadian mass shooter revealed in more ways than one. 6 o'clock, AM 560.
It's the newest lead in the search for Nancy Guthrie, now in day 12. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Investigators found a black glove about a mile away from Nancy Guthrie's home on Campbell Avenue, which is a busy street that connects to Nancy's neighborhood. This type of clue could ultimately offer critical DNA evidence.
Fox's Matt Finn in Tucson, Arizona. The man captured on video outside the Guthrie home around the time of the 84-year-old's kidnapping was wearing gloves.
This morning, Fox News saw a Pima County forensic team searching brush on the side of Campbell Avenue, which is where the glove was found. Some of the agents were taking pictures.
There are still no suspects named in that search. The Senate will hold a hearing today that could get testy, putting Minnesota in focus from fraud allegations to controversial immigration enforcement that has Democrats threatening to not fund Homeland Security beyond tomorrow, the day after a contentious hearing with Attorney General Pam Bondi.
President Trump's policies have saved lives.
And while she called Jeffrey Epstein a monster and that they've released millions of files from the sex trafficking investigation, some lawmakers were critical of Bondi's handling of the case, like Congressman Jamie Raskin.
You acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty.
Bondi called him a loser lawyer and then got into it with Congressman Ted Lieu.
I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you.
Russia hit Ukraine with another drone and missile barrage overnight in the capital, Kyiv, and other cities. And a Ukrainian athlete who made a statement about that war on his helmet was disqualified today at the Winter Olympics. Vladislav Haraskevich not allowed to compete in the skeleton.
His specially designed helmet displayed images of Ukrainian athletes killed as a result of Russia's invasion. The IOC told him it was a political message and therefore banned. It says Haraskevich didn't consider any form of compromise, such as wearing a black armband.
That's Jonathan Savage. America's Listen.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560. The Answer. I'm Stace Keen in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Illinois House Republicans are calling on Democrats to oppose new tax proposals. Jim Talamonte has the story.
State Rep Dave Severin said House Bill 4459 would impose fees on backyard campfires, and House Bill 5112 would impose taxes on retail carry-out bags.
By the way, Mr. Severin, those s'mores items you just bought at the grocery store, we've got to charge you a bag tax for that.
Severin spoke during a virtual press conference on Wednesday. State Rep Kyle Moore said the new tax proposals are an insult to working families.
The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression is suing U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem over allegations that they violated the First Amendment rights of two people who aim to inform the public about federal immigration law enforcement activity. The suit alleges that Bondi and Noem pressured a takedown of a Facebook group and an Apple application hosting video footage of ICE operations. A Venezuelan migrant has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for trying to murder another migrant who killed his friend, who was also a migrant, all on the Chicago South Side in November of 2024. CW Chicago is reporting that both shootings occurred inside the same Washington Park apartment building where 911 callers reported armed migrants had, quote, taken over months earlier. 25-year-old Henry Brito Dominguez pleaded guilty to the attempted murder of Carlos Reynaldo Maribel Carvajal. Maribel Carvajal remains in jail as he fights murder charges in connection with the death of Peter Sangonis Medina. This news is a service of the Chicago Wolves. Chicago Wolves hockey returns to the Allstate Arena on Saturday, February 14th with the Wolves' annual Faith and Fellowship Night and Teddy Bear Toss. Join the Chicago Wolves for some fun hockey when they play the Colorado Eagles, and stay for the post-game Faith and Fellowship Q&A with Wolves star Josias Levine. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Mike Gallagher says it takes a special person.
I do feel sorry for the family of this guy. I feel sorry for the family of Renee Good. I feel sorry for anybody who gets killed. Doesn't have to be that way. But it takes a special kind of person to go up to a man who's wearing a bulletproof vest, has a long gun, to get in their face.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Alex Marlowe at 11 on AM 560, The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this past year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. So they are bringing back the mega sale. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $14.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the made in the USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $34.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
She's unafraid and unapologetic. She's Laura Trump, and she's shaking things up on the Right View podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
We're now in a midterm election year, and the Democrats, I think, are panicking. They have very little to run on. The faces of their party now are socialists. Democrats, I think, are probably looking at Tim Walz, and they're like, we don't need the distraction of another failed Democrat.
Subscribe to the Right View podcast with Laura Trump on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Ben Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G coverage. What? Franklin wasn't even a president. Hang on to those Benjamins. Dial pound 250, say Micro, and save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, Micro, to switch to an American wireless company that's truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. After my husband died, the last thing I wanted to think about was money. Ethos made it affordable to get life insurance. Signing up was fast and 100% online. I knew that I could pay our mortgage and have food in the fridge. I could focus on my kids. No one ever tells you how much you're going to depend on that policy. I am so grateful we had coverage.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. That's ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
The vaccines have failed. While the virus continues to mutate and bypass every shot they give you, the establishment is left with no answers. You're being left defenseless against a changing enemy. But the cavalry has arrived. When the system fails, nature and science unite to rescue your immune system. It's time to stop chasing mutations and start blocking them. I'm Dr. Michael Huber, introducing Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. We've combined 23 high-potency natural ingredients into one synergistic strike. We are hitting the virus from every angle. Don't be a victim of ineffective science. Get the 23-ingredient shield that actually works. Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail.
Order your bottle of Virago online today. Visit myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30% at checkout. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Looking great on the Edens, 14 minutes both ways from Lee Cook to Montrose, just 8 minutes on the Kennedy in both directions from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, and you're at 14 minutes both ways on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office. No delays on the Stevenson, 24 minutes in, 22 out from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Watch out for a crash on the Dan Ryan inbound north of 87th Street, still just 13 minutes inbound from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 11. A little bit sluggish inbound on the express lanes from Pershing Road to 31st Street. News is a service of the Will County Freedom Caucus. Celebrate America's 250th birthday on February 15th at Crystal Grand Ballroom in Lamont. Hear U.S. Senate candidate Don Tracy and gubernatorial candidates Darren Bailey, James Mendrick, and Ted Dabrowski. Get your tickets today at willcountyfreedom.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The high will reach 39 degrees. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 28. Tomorrow is said to be mostly sunny with a high of 49. As we head into Saturday, anticipate a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We'll get to the latest on that terrible occurrence, mass shooting at that school in Tumbler Ridge, Canada. Get to that at the bottom of the hour. I want to stick on the hearings for a second, not just Pam Bondi's hearing yesterday, but also fold in the House Homeland Security hearing featuring Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons as well, because I think it's illustrative of what we were discussing. And let's just develop that a little bit more. And how easy it would be to debunk some of the things that are being alleged in real time. If you're prepared, you know where they're going to go. So I don't know why there is not a more concerted effort to hear the arguments, to present the arguments side by side, to hear the allegation that becomes, a talking point from the central office that just gets repeated and repeated and repeated, and people don't have easy access to the response because you are not providing them with said access. I'm talking about, for example, this exchange between Bondi and the goofy Ted Lieu from California, where he accused her of lying under oath. This is how that went.
Because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you. Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask a question, Mr. Head. You're allowed to.
I did not ask a question. Crime in California. He does not want to talk about.
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his state.
She can't just ad-lib stuff. I did not ask a question.
Meeting will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness will be more than happy to let the Attorney General.
Madam Attorney General, would you like?
Well, the Ted Lieu, who is a buffoon, is repeating something that you hear repeated all the time. Trump was involved. You know, the Ilhan Omar tweeting out or posting on X yesterday again, the pedophile protection party, right? I mean, this is their, as I said, the aphorisms and talking points from the central office that you just hear repeated. They're going to say whatever they're going to say, but at least you can disabuse the fair-minded with the substantive response that gives lie to what Ted Lieu just alleged. What he's talking about is an allegation from a limousine driver who told the FBI in October of 2020, so October of 2020, that he drove Trump in 1995, 25 years later. He remembers it like it was yesterday. Anyway, and overheard him referencing Epstein and, quote, abusing some girl, unquote. He claimed that a woman with him later stated Donald J. Trump had raped me along with Jeffrey Epstein. The driver indicated this occurred sometime between 1995 and 1999. The woman later died of a reported suicide by gunshot to the head. That's what Lieu was referencing. Police said it couldn't have been suicide. Well, that's what it was ruled, Ted. So if you have other evidence on that, please do bring it forward. The Justice Department found the allegations to be untrue, unfounded, and sensationalist. Untrue, unfounded, and sensationalist. And so that was in 2020. So Trump was still president until January of 2021. But then the Biden administration took over. And I don't have the precise date. You know, this was a tip in October of 2020, the idea that the FBI adjudicated the veracity of this between October and January of 2021 seems doubtful to me, but possible. Regardless, this was such an important tip that it could have been followed up on for 4 years by the Biden Department of Justice, right? Right, Ted? And no one has interviewed this guy. They did interview the guy. What are you talking about? You don't even have your basic facts straight. They did interview him in October of 2020, and they found what he said to be lacking in credibility. And if there was a disagreement about whether this witness was saying something that was credible or verifiable, then that could have been taken up. You had 4 years to take it up. Where were you banging that drum then, Ted? Would that have been a better moment? I think so. Then, yeah. What about the crime in California? Don't do that. Those ham-handed pivots are not persuasive. Not persuasive. And there's just so much more upside here because you have, 2 decades of runway. Just, give us just the unvarnished, strip away all of the superlatives and invective, and just give us the unvarnished look, folks. Here was what transpired over the course of more than 2 decades, some locally, some at the federal level. The information gathering, we have probably gaps in the timelines and information. Do we have everything retained? Is it organized? Was it organized? What did we have to do? Just tell us what you inherited and then what you did with it and what you can have concluded at this juncture, and what, if anything, you would like to know other than, which is fair, an open-ended call for anybody who has information against anybody who has been named or anybody who wronged or harmed you. Then come forward. Here's a hotline. Here's my card. Call your congressman. Tell us. Could have just been so much more productive. Russ in Palos Heights.
Thanks for having me, Dan. No doubt you, Dan, would have been able to articulate a better answer than Pam Bondi. However, I suspect you would have suffered the same fate of being talked over while you were attempting to respond. Second item is I think when I look back on all of these kinds of exposures that are by Congress, I notice that the Republicans tend to let at least an answer be given by the person that they're talking to. That never happens with the Democrats.
Thanks for the call, Ross. Well, here's the other thing, too. I mean, it should not all come down to a committee hearing. And then after that hearing, have a press conference and correct the record. Ted Lieu wouldn't let me speak. They don't want me to speak. They don't want me to answer questions. They don't want me to give you the facts. As we've talked about, they're just trying to have their moment. They're trying to just browbeat people into believing things that are not true. So this is something that should have been done last year. So we spent all this time with all these lawyers poring over all these documents and other material. And here's what we've got. And here's what we don't got. And you have questions, ask them. And let me make some statements in response to the critiques being offered by the hypocritical left that had the 4 Biden years, that had the 8 Biden and Obama years, and did nothing. And we'll do a little compare and contrast as opposed to where Trump has been on this and what this administration has done. You have the biggest bully pulpit in the world. Use it. Spend the time. Put it together. And if Pam Bondi is not the best spokeshuman to walk through this, then put somebody up who is. It's just not that complicated. I mean, this case is very complicated. This saga is very complicated. But in terms of providing some account, some credible account, that is not that complicated. If you're operating on the level, which I think they are. I just don't think they're doing it as competently as they could. And this takes us to Todd Lyons, where they did the same rap with him. I mean, somebody like Eric Swalwell, Fang Fang's paramour. Eric Swalwell. Same thing. Everybody should resign. Everybody should be impeached.
You are what I would call otherwise employable. I think most people would agree this is not the only job that you can get. But since you've been on this job, women have been dragged by their hair through our streets. A 6-year-old child battling stage 4 cancer has been deported, and it turns out he was a U.S. citizen. People are running through the fields where they work. People who've gone to the streets as allies have been shot and publicly executed. It's a decision to stay on at this point. And considering your honorable service in the past and the dishonorable acts that those who have worked for you have conducted, and the disgraceful statements that the leadership above you have said, you now have a decision. Will you stand with the kids who you're supposed to protect, or will you side with the killers bringing terror to our streets? Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement.
Oh, the gentleman's time is up. Right. So here's another one. Yeah, the Ramos kid in Liam, right? Ramos in Minnesota. Yeah. I mean, again, what do you expect from Swalwell? He is pond scum. But this is, if you can't get it in a hearing, then call a press conference afterwards. You're the acting ICE director. You think you're going to get covered? You think people want to talk to you? I think they do. We talked to Todd. He seems like a pretty affable, accessible guy. Let him go. He knows what he's talking about. Let him go. And say, Did you see that exchange between Eric Swalwell and myself at that Homeland Security Committee hearing? This is what we're dealing with that party. That's a party that presided over, what are the numbers? 500,000 kids being trafficked into this country, and the Biden administration losing track of most of them. All this talk about trafficking and underage kids being exploited, whether it's an Epstein Island or by deviants and predators in this country. And they just willy-nilly allowed 500,000 kids, unaccompanied, dubious adults taking custody of them on this side because, of course, there was no vetting done, as has also been well documented, including by former ICE and CBP agents, CBP in particular, I recall. I think it was Catherine Herridge who did a good interview of some of those agents saying what should be happening and what isn't happening. DNA samples and all that sort of thing to ensure that this is somebody we got a handle on and we can track as needed. You're going to take custody of somebody, an unaccompanied minor that enters this country. None of that happened. You're going to talk to me about, you're going to call ICE agents killers? You're going to talk to me about child exploitation? These are law enforcement officers. Whether or not you think the Renee Good and Alex Preddy shootings were legitimate uses of lethal force or not, and I do, but whether you think they were or not, the idea that you're going to characterize thousands of ICE officers, federal law enforcement officers, as killers, like this is what they do, they kill people, they exploit children, while you turn a blind eye to actual traffickers, 500,000 kids. And what has Holman said the Trump administration has recovered so far, as identified? Some tens of thousands. Is it 40,000? I'd have to look it up. The bottom line is the scale of this. And they've also documented kids they found who are no longer with us, dead. And you're going to moralize to me? These people stand with international criminal organizations, drug cartels, and gangbangers, and predator mafioso. And they characterize ICE agents, they characterize law enforcement as the bad guys. This is completely upside down. Are you listening, America? Is this thing on? The closest thing we got to that after that hearing was Lisa McClain, who's a congresswoman from Michigan. And, you know, this is a little bit more like it should be, but it needs to be coming from the director level, too. She's talking specifically about Michigan, which is great. Fine. More congresswomen should be doing this. But also, let's unleash people who know what they're talking about to completely respond to the demagogues like Swalwell and the rest of that party. Put it out there relentlessly, just like they put out these scurrilous accusations relentlessly. Lisa McClain.
DHS has pulled an illegal alien out of Zeeland, Michigan, convicted of sexually exploiting a minor. This guy. This is who the protesters and the Democrats are defending. An illegal who is here, who has been convicted, I might say, of sexually exploiting a minor. I don't know why you all aren't angry about that. I'll share with you. It is unfathomable to me. In Grand Rapids, they got a guy convicted of larceny and sexual assault. In Ypsilanti, Jackson, in Detroit, in Holland, Pontiac, DHS found deported illegal aliens committed of homicide, murder. These folks are monsters. And you have Democrats that are advocating for them to get released back into your communities. Why aren't you reporting, and why aren't more people outraged? I don't get it. I got to share with you. I don't get it. These folks are monsters. They're criminals. They murder. They sexually assault young women, minors. And you know what the Democrats want to do? Let's release them into your communities. And let's celebrate the criminals. Let's villainize the ICE agents and celebrate the people who are raping your children.
Yeah. That. Oh, but they're not all rapists and murderers. Yeah, I know. Because that's so obvious, I don't need to say it. I'm focused on the public safety threat. If someone wants to come back with you, that silliness. Oh, you're characterizing them all. No, I'm not. I'm focusing on the threat. What are you focusing on? Frank Elgin, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, I watched that piece yesterday, that the hearing or whatever. I'm somewhat of a political news junkie, and I just have to say, it's gotten to the point where it's a breath of fresh air that you could actually rebuttal some of this stuff. I don't understand how we've gotten this far, other than the Democrats just flood the zone with all this nonsense, and they constantly keep us flat-footed and having to defend ourselves. It's time to go on the offense, and it's time to just find someone that could speak truth, as they would say, to power. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree on being on offense, but it's what kind of offense are you running? Right? They sort of like go on offense. Yeah, okay, so what does that look like? Does it look like moral indignation if somebody says I lied under oath? Does it look like you're a loser lawyer, not even? Is that what going on offense is? I mean, it's one way of doing it, so it just muddies the water. But the other way of doing it is to refute on the merits the things that they allege that are clearly factually incorrect. And, I mean, you can expose their hypocrisy, too. Remind people these are all, small men and women living in glass houses, venal people that don't care about the underlying issue or solving it. Certainly, they just take other human beings as mascots and the means to their political ends. They care so much about Liam Ramos. No, they don't. Could care less. Could not care less. But you have to deal on the level. You have to come over the top with substance too, not just with the best name calling. You know me. I'm happy to see ridicule employed. I am somebody who is a big supporter of name calling, because that ridicule reminds our political representatives that they are just that, our temporary representatives, not our betters. Reminds both of us that, actually. We don't genuflect before temporary elected representatives or anybody short of God. And it's good to remind everybody that that's the case by saying, hey, to borrow from Ambrose Bierce, private vices don't magically become public virtue. This jackal that I knew from high school is now a congressman, so I'm going to pretend he's not the same flawed individual that I know because he's got a honorable in front of his name now. The hell with that. No, nobody's beyond reproach. So I'm fine with that, but it can't be exclusively that. You see what I'm saying? Dan in Salem, Wisconsin.
Dan, this whole thing with this illegal alien calamity is the Democrats' fault. That's all it is. And they're Marxist-Leninists, and all they keep doing is just telling lies. And I got good news, though. Hey, if they can pass this thing in the Senate where they have to have voter ID now and you have to prove you're a citizen, the Republicans got this, baby.
Yeah, right. Thanks for the call, Dan. No, I like the best argument. Wait, you keep saying Trump is going to steal the midterm elections. Trump's going to steal the midterm elections. I'll tell you what, a good way to prevent Trump from stealing those midterm elections? Pass the SAVE Act so people have to show their ID. So Trump can't stuff those ballot boxes. You with me? That's the kind of fun jujitsu we should be thinking about. Just one more from the Lions hearing, too, because this is something. And I don't know if Jeannie and Amy got to it, but this is the kind of stuff to elevate. Let's not just have fun with it on social media. Like, really elevate it, tackle it, sustain it, get people out Trump was smart to say, my cabinet and executive level people, I want good communicators. That was a good insight on his part. You need good communicators in politics because, as a great man once said, words are the currency of politics. And that was, of course, me. And what I meant is let's take advantage of our strengths and their infirmities. And one of their infirmities is named LaMonica MacIver. She's the one who's currently under indictment for assaulting an ICE officer in Jersey. And this is how she used her time with Todd Lyons, acting ICE director.
Don't seem to care. So, Mr. Lyons, I've heard my colleagues ask many questions over and over again, and you cannot answer them. So let me ask you some questions that you may be able to answer.
You can also
Mr.
ask
Lyons,
him some
do you
questions.
consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh, okay, of course not. Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not going to entertain.
Of course not. How many government...
The gentlelady will
agencies-
suspend. The
How many-
gentlelady will suspend.
Chairman?
A gentlelady will suspend. As I said, the issues we're debating here are important to ones that members feel deeply about.
Thank you,
While
Mr.
vigorous disagreement is part of the legislative process, members are reminded that we must adhere to established standards of decorum and debate. The witnesses are here voluntarily, and I will continue to remind members that while oversight is important, aggressively attacking those witnesses personally is inappropriate and not in keeping with the traditions of our committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking a question. You guys are always talking about religion here in the Bible. I mean, it's okay for me to ask a question, right?
It is. You know what, Representative MacIver, it's a great question. And am I going to hell? Well, I'll tell you what, I guess you'll find out if you see me down there. All right, so let's check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 29 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. The Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs has announced nearly $1 million in grants to organizations providing services to veterans and their families. The Veteran Scratch-Off Lottery Ticket Grant is a yearly competitive reimbursement grant that's offered quarterly to nonprofits, tax-exempt entities, and governmental organizations. Officials say it could be days before train services restored following a derailment Wednesday morning. Heavy equipment was on the scene working to clear a pathway for workers to get to the overturned cars. Ridgeland Avenue remains closed between Southwest Highway and Washington Street, and Central Avenue is closed at the railroad tracks between 107th and Pleasant. And the Border Patrol agent accused of shooting a Chicago woman last October has been placed on administrative leave. Officials say the move is consistent with the agency's policy. Agent Charles Exum was placed on leave just one day after body cam video was released, which seems to agree with Miramar Martinez's account that she did not crash into ICE agents with her vehicle, but rather Exum crashed into her car before he began shooting at her. This report is a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
On Thursday, February 26th, at Benedictine University in Lisle, AM 560 is hosting a Republican debate. Come hear the candidates for governor and U.S. Senate make their cases for why they should win your vote in the primary election. Be a part of the process to defeat J.B. Pritzker and replace Dick Durbin. Tickets are free, but registration is required. Get your tickets today at 560theanswer.com/debate. That's 560theanswer.com/debate.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Hello, can I have your attention, please? My name is Hugh McKenzie, and I'm a devout listener of The Answer. They have partnered with Food for the Poor consistently for the last few years. In the past, I've always wanted to participate, but unfortunately never had the extra cash at the end of the year to do so. But last weekend, I received the mail, and there was a bonus check for $2,500 from Mack Truck for selling commercial vehicles. I decided that I was all in. As I mentioned, I sell commercial vehicles. Everything from Mack, Volvo, Hino, Isuzu, new and used. I've been selling for over 30 years in the Chicagoland market. Call me at 630-918-9534 or check me out on the web. Google my name, Hugh McKenty. And Hugh is spelled H-U-G-H, McKenty is spelled M-C-K-E-N-T-Y. All right, thank you very much for your time.
To contact Hugh McKenty, search Hugh McKenty on LinkedIn or call 630-918-9534. That's 630-918-9534.
Are you 65 or older and dealing with chronic knee or shoulder pain? You're not alone. At the Joint Relief Institute, we've helped thousands find real relief without surgery. Our non-surgical, FDA-approved treatment uses hyaluronic gel that acts like a cushion between the bones in your knee. As we age, the cushion naturally wears down, causing painful grinding and popping. But our gel restores that cushion, allowing your knee to move smoothly again. Ready to stop the pain and get back to doing what you love? Call the Joint Relief Institute at 708-315-6800. Again, that's 708-315-6800.
Move better, live better with JRI.
Move better and live better with JRI. Contact the Joint Relief Institute today and get back to doing what you love. Call 708-315-6800 or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. Call 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
File your taxes for free with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. Just file on your own in the Credit Karma app by February 28th. Valid for those who didn't file with TurboTax last year.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jam-packed on the Kennedy Express lanes northbound, right at North Avenue and Division Street, all because of a crash at Division Street. It is just stop and go, but the main roadway is just 9 minutes inbound from Montrose to the Burton Interchange. Outbound is 8. You're looking great on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose, just about 15 minutes both ways and 14 minutes in both directions on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office. Inbound Stevenson is 27 minutes from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 22. 15 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 11. This report is a service of Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/credit card. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The temperature will reach a high of 39. Tonight will be partly cloudy with the lows of 28. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny with the high of 49. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Be a part of AM 560's Republican debate on Thursday, February 26th at Benedictine University in Lisle. Get your free tickets today at 560theanswer.com/debate.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So this mass shooting at a secondary school in Tumbler Ridge, Canada, Ottawa. Mass shooting in Colorado Springs. The shooter, non-binary. Mass shooting. Covenant School, Nashville, trans. Mass shooting in Denver, trans. Mass shooting at Aberdeen, trans. Mass shooting at Tumbler Ridge, trans. The Canadian police are tiptoeing around this issue. Of course, this is what's important. In the wake of 8 people being murdered by a deranged, and that's not necessarily a clinical diagnosis. I'm just characterizing the behavior. You would have to be deranged at some level to indiscriminately murder people. Canadian authorities wanting to make sure that we're very sensitive to they. Proper pronoun usage.
We're not hiding it. In fact, you're the first media to ask the question. I will say this. We identified the suspect as they chose to be identified in public and in social media. I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female both socially and
which is why you get headlines like 18-year-old woman identified as the shooter. Yahoo News. Reuters. Yahoo is something similar. Canadian police identify 18-year-old woman as suspect in mass school shooting. Well, to give them some latitude, of course, Reuters doesn't know what a woman is, so you can understand their confusion. Canadian police identify 18-year-old woman as a suspect in mass school shooting. You just heard police man pretending to be a woman, which we've had a real spike in over the last decade. On a per capita basis over the last decade, the data seems to indicate that those identifying on the what has been called the gender spectrum, those identifying as trans, non-binary, something other than their biological sex, highest per capita incidence of mass shootings. Now, this is not to say that, as we always have to give this caveat because people are so quick to provide, reflexive ignorance in response. Of course, we're not saying that all people who identify as trans or on that said spectrum are violent or mass shooters. But it's one of those things where you see a particular incidence, a overrepresentation on a per capita basis, and you say, is there something going on there that could be addressed? There are many variables because you have to explain why people similarly situated do something and don't do something. So there are many variables, but when you see overlap, you say, well, is this one of them? And what, if anything, should be learned by this being a consistent, by this being a variable across a number of incidents, such that you have a particular cohort that has a shared trait that is presenting more of a public safety threat than other cohorts with similar traits? That's a fair question. And so when it came to radical Islamist terror attacks, we say, well, this is a person who became a radicalized Islamist, Islamofascist, wanted to institute Sharia law, wanted to attack the West, became radicalized. Does that mean all Muslims are that way? No, of course not. But it is something that worth taking judicial notice of in terms of profiling, as we've talked to, like legitimate law enforcement profiling, like we talked to with James Fitzgerald, the famed profiler for the FBI who broke the Unabomber case. Profiling for the very specific purpose of identifying an individual responsible for a particular unsolved crime or a threat profile. Not profiling people just because they're this or just because they're that. The multitude of variables. But it's a little disconcerting when you have police, rather than focused on this, and this shouldn't be a surprise, but it is a surprise to the Canadians, because they take a pretty dim view to gun ownership and things like that, so that's supposed to prevent things like this from happening. Of course, it doesn't. And instead of addressing this underlying cultural phenomenon, which persists in the West, they are worried about things like using proper gender-neutral terminology.
That includes the deceased gun person.
Gun person. Gun human. 312-642-5600. Give us a call or a text on this. 8 people dead, murdered. The shooter, as I'm sure you know at this point, the gun person, took himself out. By the way, just as a quick aside, how this works, I mentioned the Reuters headline. This turns out to be kind of important. Canadian police identify 18-year-old woman as suspect in mass shooting. That headline. I posted about this yesterday on X, but Dan Schneider over at the Media Research Center had a sort of very simple but really important post here. We've all witnessed over the last week, the Washington Post is in tumult. They laid off a third of their staff. The publisher resigned. So the Washington Post is dying. New York Times is dying. The legacy corporate media is dying. They're losing influence. They are if you have a choice to consume it. In other words, people are not moving to the Washington Post or the New York Times to get their news en masse. They would not be able to sustain those operations, and they can't even with this dynamic, which I'll get to in a second, at the Washington Post apparently, without some enhancement. And the enhancement is this. Yeah, the dying Washington Post publishes anti-American or anti-Trump story. And then the thriving Apple News republishes the story. So the half of American voters who own an Apple phone are fed the Washington Post propaganda. Since Apple News has not published a single story from a right-wing outlet in nearly 100 days, according to Dan Schneider, who pays attention to this stuff, iPhone owners think Trump is Hitler. Yeah, well, Google News follows the same process, except their favorite outlet is the New York Times. This directly impacts 90% of American voters between Apple and Google. Apple and Google both love ABC, CBS, and NBC, too, of course. And they delist or minimize conservative outlets. So the point is, this is the irony. The legacy corporate media is diminishing in influence in a vacuum. But their influence is actually growing because they're amplified by Apple and Google, which dominates what is pushed to everyone's phone, 90% of American voters. So as long as they have that over-the-top amplification, things couldn't be better. Now, it doesn't monetize quite the same way as the old subscription prices they were used to charge, but just in terms of the propaganda being distributed and inculcated into the electorate, it's going better for them in the fragmented digital age than it was in the old analog era where they were actual gatekeepers. How ironic and disturbing is that? It should strike you as very ironic and even more disturbing. Go Google search or, search on anything other than DuckDuckGo for trans-related violence and see how long it takes you to get to another incident outside of this horrific massacre in Tumbler Ridge, Canada. See if it'll give you the inventory that I just ran through a little bit of the last 3 or 4 years of trans-involved mass shootings. Instead, it'll all be trans violence overstate. It'll all be the agitprop of the Washington Post and the New York Times and ABC and CBS and NBC. So you can understand why, even if you can't defend it, why people have such a stilted perception of reality. Because they're tethered to their smartphone and they're fed this leftist bilge relentlessly on every salient issue of the day, maybe with the exception of, Savannah Guthrie's missing mom, but every other salient political issue of the day where the left has staked out a hard position. And this is frankly how they can take a position like they're taking on voter ID and probably survive it. Because all the content being pushed to everybody's smartphone is voter ID disenfranchises, it's racist, it's Jim Crow 2.0. Robert and Lyle, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yes, what you just said about the outlets and the news outlets is so vexing people that don't go along with what's happening. They're trying to twist everything so the Democratic Party can get elected again. But I'll tell you what, here's the deal. The pharmaceutical companies don't take responsibility for anything. Their ads should say, this drug may cause you to have an outrage that may be uncontrollable and you might hurt other people. That should be part of their stuff that you see on TV. And it is true. There is a causal connection between transgenders, people that are on drugs, and all these kinds of things. I think there's a super connection there, and it needs to be explained and on TV all the time. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks for the call, Robert. Slate, which is a leftist outlet, the day after that Tumbler Ridge school shooting, they published an op-ed. Conservatives are terrified that people like me are buying guns now. Maybe they should be. This is LGBTQ. Maybe you better mind your P's and Q's, conservatives, because I got guns now. What does that mean? From the piece, if you would have told me 10 years ago I would one day keep a handgun in my D.C. row house, I would have laughed in your face. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that I might take reasonably seriously the possibility that a real-life scenario might someday incite me to use it, I would have called you insane. But the social and political conditions of American life are changing with alarming speed. Okay. And went on to talk about how use our gay group chats to talk about these social and political conditions to radicalize each other, that there's roving gangs of MAGA voters looking to do violence to gay or LGBTQ2SIA plus and plus people, which it's hard to make out. It's hard to make out that case. But this is, again, whipped into a frenzy by the agitprop that says, no, you're the victim. You're under attack. MAGA voters are looking to do physical harm to you, looking to send you to a gulag or constrict your rights. So you better be prepared to put your bodies on the line. The same sort of rhetoric we hear in Minnesota with respect to ICE officers. Escalating political violence through propagandizing, which, by the way, is not dissimilar to what the Islamists do and have done, as has been well documented, which is how some people that are marginally connected to reality or otherwise perhaps somewhat imbalanced can fall prey to radicalization online. You get pounded with one angle to a cultural dynamic over and over and over again, and you're told this is the boogeyman, this is the boogeyman, this is the boogeyman, and some people, a small percentage of people, thankfully, but it's still a small percentage of a big number, can be a big problem. It's still terribly problematic, and it is, I wouldn't say a proximate cause, but I would certainly say an instigator of people doing things they might not have otherwise done and creating victims in their wake. That's the irresponsibility of the rhetoric. You have a right to say some of these things, but because you have a right to say it and you have a right to say it over and over again, doesn't mean it's judicious that you do. And it also doesn't mean that there aren't consequences that attach, at least societal and moral, cultural consequences that should be raised. You are a dishonest person of bad faith who is looking to instigate violence, but staying just behind the line, of the proverbial fire in a crowded theater. But you're still a bad faith actor. And you're not a peaceful pluralist. Eduardo, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. They got the strictest gun control over there. These are the same people that want to have our young people protesting out during the day. I called in a local station here, and they got all upset that I even mentioned that. I tell them, well, protest after 5 p.m. They should be in school. They're under 18 years old. They got to be in school learning. But no, it's got to be that white progressive agenda being pushed.
Right. Thanks for the call, Edward. And you note that per that Slate piece, the talk of gun bans is muted when the shooter is part of their solidarity and marginality coalition. So Alex Preddy has a gun. He's exercising his right to protect himself, which I respect. Not the way he did it, though. I don't respect it when you are interfering with federal law enforcement and assaulting them, which is what he did. Same thing here. You won't hear any talk about the guns or banning trans from having guns or banning particular kinds of guns, which you would hear in a different context if the profile of the shooter was different. You won't hear that here. So it's funny how they just like that op-ed in Slate I mentioned, now they're wrapping themselves around the Second Amendment when it's convenient. But I mean, of course, it's always rights for me and not for thee. That's a calling card. George in Naperville.
Yes, Stan, if a gunslinger in the Old West was a trans, would they call him a gun person?
I doubt it, George. I mean, depends, I guess, who's making the Western. I doubt a gun person would have been the lingo in, say, Deadwood if somebody had protested. I tend to doubt it. But, we're so much more enlightened than we were in those bad old Wild Western days, right? Are we? I don't know. It doesn't so much seem like it sometimes, does it? Not to me. All right. Coming up at 7:07, I'm going to talk about that sort of bizarre incident where the El Paso airspace was closed down for a time yesterday. We'll do that with Ammon Blair at 7:07. It's now 7 o'clock at AM 560 WIND.
Is the black glove evidence? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That is a big question on day 12 of the search for Nancy Guthrie. He was found a mile from her Arizona home. In video footage released Tuesday of a man outside the home around the time the 84-year-old was kidnapped, he was wearing gloves.
Now, this type of clue, the glove, could ultimately offer critical DNA evidence.
Fox's Matt Finn in Tucson says despite 18,000 calls to an FBI tip line,
as of this morning, there are no known suspects. Law enforcement is not asking the public to be on the lookout for anyone in particular, and that includes a vehicle.
Minnesota will be in focus at a Senate hearing next hour, and it could get tense with Democrats critical of immigration enforcement demanding ICE reform, or they'll block Homeland Security funding beyond tomorrow.
Minnesota Attorney General Democrat Keith Ellison, House Majority Whip Republican Tom Emmer, and Minnesota's Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, Paul Schnell, among two panels of witnesses that also include the heads of ICE and Border Patrol, focusing on the need for local and state cooperation with immigration officials.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. Russia hit Ukraine overnight with a drone and missile barrage in the capital, Kyiv, and other cities, countered by Ukraine attacking Russian oil refineries. 2 U.S. Navy ships collide off the coast of South America.
The vessels are assigned to the military buildup in the Caribbean. The Wall Street Journal reports the USS Truxtun and USNS Supply hit each other in waters near South America. 2 people suffered minor injuries.
Fox's Carly Shimkus. In Brussels, there's a NATO meeting.
United States Under-Secretary of War Elbridge Colby says it's time for a NATO based on partnership, not dependency. The bloc's Secretary General Mark Rutte agrees.
For the United States to be secure, you need a strong and secure Arctic, a secure Europe, but also a secure Atlantic. So we are in this together.
Rutte also said the U.S. is leading the way on ending the war in Ukraine.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is 29 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keenan in the QC Kinetics newsroom. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today, highs topping out around 35, but tomorrow sunshine and 48 as we start the weekend. The Chicago woman shot by immigration officials last year is suing the Trump administration. Fox 32's Terrence Lee has the story.
Body camera video released Tuesday shows what happened last October. Martinez followed Agent Charles Exum's vehicle for 15 minutes, honking to warn the community. about ICE being in the area. The video shows him steering left into her car, then shooting 5 times as she drives by. They called her a domestic terrorist and then charged her with ramming. The agent told the FBI all 5 shots went through the windshield. Ballistics show 3 hit the passenger side, 1 the back. And then text messages also released show that he bragged about 7 holes. Hours later, she was in the hospital. Commander Ravino emailed the agent praising his excellent service. Her attorney says Martinez wants to push for accountability.
Amazon drones will soon be flying overhead in the southern suburbs. Officials with Amazon say those drones will take off from the Markham and Madison fulfillment centers, delivering packages within about an 8-mile radius. The drones are already available, delivering packages in cities across the U.S. They're dropping off packages weighing 5 pounds or less. And officials say it could be days before train service is restored following a derailment on Wednesday morning. Ridgeland Avenue remains closed between Southwest Highway and Washington Street, and Central Avenue is closed at the railroad tracks between 107th and Pleasant. You're being asked to find alternative routes. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full-mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt doesn't see the president flinching.
He has made a couple of social media posts today that are pretty indicative of his intention to be very serious with the mullahs. And the Ayatollahs had better be paying attention because President Trump is not messing around.
There's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Carr Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second-generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old-school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest-growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Carr Machine and Tool. You set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Ben Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G coverage. What? Franklin wasn't even a president. Hang on to those Benjamins. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, to switch to an American wireless company that's truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
You know, there's nothing wrong with flying first class. Of course, everybody's got that cheapskate uncle that always says the back of the plane lands at the same time as the front of the plane. I guess there's some sort of cheapskate logic in that. However, the door is in the front of the plane. So why not get to first class? After all, they have dishes, silverware, glasses, warm towels. And if you want to sit at first class, or you aspire to, all you need is a little planning from Alpha Wealth Group. Their goal is to help maximize your income in retirement. Since you can't take it with you, there's no point in squandering your time. After all, the warm towels make the ride fun. Call Tom Fortino and Alpha Wealth Group for their complimentary roadmap to retirement, so you can take a first-class flight and not worry about the cost. Call 630-864-6711. That number again, 630-864-6711. 630-864-6711 or online at alphawealthgroup.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still looking good on the Edens, about 16 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy is 12 in from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 10 on the outbound side. The northbound Tri-State slows down approaching the Eisenhower, and the Eisenhower is stop and go inbound between Wolf Road and Harlem Avenue. So right now it's 28 minutes between Wolf to the old post office. Outbound is 19. 39 minutes in on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 24. 23 in on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 12. And jams on the northbound side of Lakeshore Drive between Bryn Mawr Avenue and Hollywood Avenue. News is a service of the Chicago Wolves. Chicago Wolves hockey returns to Allstate Arena on Saturday, February 14th with the Wolves annual Faith and Fellowship Night and Teddy Bear Toss. Join the Chicago Wolves for some fun hockey when they play the Colorado Eagles, and stay for the post-game Faith and Fellowship Q&A with Wolf star Josiah Slavine. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The temperature will reach a high of 39. Tonight will be partly cloudy with the lows of 28. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny with the high of 49. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I want to get to this rather bizarre occurrence where airspace over El Paso was shut down for a time yesterday. But before we do that, we do want to update what's going on with respect to federal immigration law enforcement. And before I do that, I want to start with this interview of Cesar Chavez that has recirculated online. This is good stuff. Cesar Chavez, of course, the revered union organizer for farm workers in California. This is Cesar Chavez in 1974, October of 1974, talking about illegal immigrants coming over and, remarkably, taking jobs from the Mexican farm workers that he was attempting to organize. Take a listen to what Cesar Chavez, icon of the left, especially the Workers of the World Unite, union power left, right?
Well, there's an awful lot of illegals coming in by the hundred, by the thousands. Our people are not only in some of the crews where there's now strike breaking. Some of those crews are 100% illegals, outright, openly, with no attempt to disguise it. And so it's so bad now that we estimate 60 to 70% of the farm workers in California, of the resident worker, of the citizen, is out of a job because of the wetbacks. They're coming in by the thousands, just unbelievable. See, they're coming in with the consent of the Immigration Service, which is part of the Department of Justice. How else could they come? We, for instance, know that if you go to Coachella, you go to around the El Paso area, the secondary immigration checkpoints have been unmanned now for at least 3-4 weeks. They're closed. They're at night. They're dark. There aren't any patrolmen there. It's a gimmick. We think that it's a prelude at the beginning to a big drive on the part of the administration and the Mexican government to bring the Bracero program again. It's a vicious attack on the local worker, and it's just one of those things that agribusiness thinks they can get away with it. And our job is to inform the whole country what's happening together with a boycott and solve it that way. And so the workers themselves, even though a lot of them are Mexican descendancy themselves, are very uptight and very, very worried and very mad about the illegals coming to break their strikes, and it takes away their jobs, their livelihood, and so forth.
Uh-huh. Whoa, wait a second. These are your people. I mean, Cesar Chavez comes this close to articulating the great replacement theory.
Part of your program has been an appeal to equal treatment of people of Mexican origin. Right?
Oh, yeah, sure, but we're speaking of the legal ones. You know, we don't want Mexico to export its poverty to us, and then we pay. It's not the agriculture, it's not society in general, it's the farm worker, again, paying for those sins, you know. And Mexico should take the initiative and stop exporting the poverty to us. They should do something about the rural economy over there.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, that sounds like something Trump might say. Of course, Trump is a racist and Cesar Chavez isn't, even if they say the same thing and have the same position for the same people. It's remarkable. That was only 5 decades ago. How are we doing wrestling with these matters? And by the way, some progress. As I mentioned before, these politicians in robes, these federal district court judges that think they can, stop they can insert themselves into the executive and legislative branches. Those are the 3 branches, executive, legislative, and judicial, in case you're the sheriff of Mecklenburg County, in case he's listening. They think they can insert themselves into the purview of those other branches. Well, the appellate court, I mean, really mostly what they do is just slow down the process, and that's probably all they're intending to do, which makes their action even more unprofessional, violative of the canons. I would say disbarable. But you've had a couple of appellate court decisions, both in the Fifth and the Ninth Circuit. Ninth Circuit found that the Kristi Noem decision to end TPS for migrants from 3 countries, Nepal, Honduras, Nicaragua, within her purview. Within her purview. It was not arbitrary and capricious, as a federal district court judge alleged. You also have a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Again, the appellate level is where we get some sanity, even on left-leaning appellate courts like the Ninth. Fifth Circuit said, asylum seekers do not have the right to enter the country and hang out until their case is heard. That's not how it works. In fact, they looked at the law, statutory law on the topic. It's just crazy enough to work. And it did. That anyone who has not been lawfully admitted is, by the statute, 1996 federal law, an applicant for admission. And applicants for admission who cannot show they are clearly and beyond a doubt entitled to be admitted shall be detained pending removal proceedings. Shall be detained. That means must be. Shall is a synonym for must. It's not optional. No, we're just going to parole you. No. Not according to the law. For more on this topic, as well as that El Paso airspace issue, Amon Blair joins us, former military service member and U.S. Border Patrol agent, currently a senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Amon Blair, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, just first on the developments at the appellate court level that are reminding the left that the executive branch has, if not plenary power, wide constitutional and statutory power here when it comes to who is admitted to this country and what to do about those who broke in.
Yeah, 100%. Finally, finally the judiciary is agreeing to the rule of law, and that physical presence doesn't confer the legal status or constitutional entitlements that accompany lawful admission, not unlawful admission, much less citizenship. And so this ruling that the Fifth Circuit had finally declared what has been law and what has been stated, just like you said, since 1996. That definition of applicant for admission.
And the implication of this going forward with temporary protected status for people from other countries, with the adjudication of asylum seekers, of cases for asylum seekers, including ones that are very dubious. What is your sort of handle on how that proceeds from here as the Trump administration stacks up some wins at the appellate and Supreme Court level with respect to their overall objective, which is removing people in some prioritization who are in this country illegally.
Yeah, great question. Many people think that once you come across the United States illegally, or if you are a visa overstay, and then you claim asylum or credible fear, that you have a right to remain here, that right afforded to lawful, whether that's aliens or citizens, is that same right to illegal aliens, and it is not. In fact, it is a discretionary relief from removal. Discretionary meaning that the Department of Homeland Security, the immigration judge, and then ICE, who enforces it, can also simply just remove you regardless of your asylum claim. So the right under current statute is that you can claim it, but you don't have a right to remain here. And so that's something that this decision by the Fifth Circuit is going to lead to. It's going to finally show that asylum does not eradicate your illegal entry. It does not eradicate your inadmissibility. It does nothing of that. All it is a temporary relief that is discretionary for ICE and the executive branch to simply just remove you from the country.
Yeah, I thought that the left's argument is so specious on its case. I don't know that it gets harpooned enough. But the idea was so you came to this country illegally, but now you've been here for years. So because you were able to successfully evade law enforcement for years, that somehow enhances your legitimacy to stay on an open-ended basis. Normally, if you're a fugitive from justice and you've evaded law enforcement for any amount of time, that doesn't change your status as a fugitive from justice. I don't know why we have intellectually, the left tries to propagate this idea that somehow there's a carve-out for people who are in this country illegally and fugitives from justice effectively.
At the end of the day, it's because they're just trying to figure out ways and means to continue what Biden did, where Biden created a parallel immigration system to bypass current immigration law to facilitate the invasion coming inside the United States. And now what they're trying to do is do the same thing, but through naturalization. And so they're trying to find any ways and means to figure out a way saying that your presence alone, given any amount of time, allows you to bypass current statute. And so at the end of the day, really they're just trying to eradicate citizenship itself. I would tell your listeners to read the book, The Dying Citizen by Victor Davis Hanson.
VDH,
He walks through the entire process that the current left is doing to completely eradicate citizenship. Because if you can eradicate that, if you can eradicate the sovereignty of that citizen, then that means you can eradicate the sovereignty of the state and the nation, because that's really where sovereignty lies. And so that's why the left is doing it. They're really looking at building a kind of like a global subject or serfs, as opposed to they deem or think that citizenship in the United States is kind of passé and is regardless. And that's why the Democrats are fighting so hard right now to protect the illegal aliens. And that is why they're also right now looking at having a federal government shutdown if we do not defund ICE, and then which would defund CBP, which would defund DHS, which would defund Coast Guard, you name it, all those agencies, all for the simple ways and means of protecting the illegal alien.
Yeah, the Dying Citizens, VDH's Dying Citizen, is excellent, as is all of VDH's work. I wanted to turn to this rather odd occurrence where airspace over El Paso and part of southern New Mexico was shut down for a few hours yesterday. And the announcement ultimately came that there was a problem with Mexican cartel drones breaching airspace. And so obviously a concern for safety in that airspace. But what is your handle on exactly what happened there and the implications in terms of what kinds of what kind of cartel activity we have at the border or in and around the border, and the sort of ongoing airspace safety threat that it implicates.
Yeah, great question. So we have incursions every single day. The Mexican cartels make incursions via drones, whether that's for surveillance to smuggle human beings or narcotics across the border, whether that is also to smuggle or the narcotics itself using those large farm drones, DJI drones, and then also they utilize those to swarm the airspace, so that we do not have air support. Those are really the three main types of reasons why the Mexican cartels typically make incursions in our air domain. And really, what happened is, if you look at history, Department of Homeland Security really doesn't have a very good counter drone or domain awareness of that air domain. It wasn't until just January of this year that they created an entire program for a drone and counter drone program under Secretary Noem, this problem has existed for years now. The Rio Grande Valley Sector Chief a few years ago testified in Congress and said drones were actually the greatest threat in the Rio Grande Valley. There are thousands upon thousands of drone incursions just in that one sector alone each and every year. And so what happened? And so because we really didn't have a program in DHS, we had to sign a memorandum of understanding with Department of War, Department of Defense, utilizing their technology. And what ended up happening is, of course, we don't have domain awareness. Border Patrol agents thought that something in the sky was a Mexican drone. We don't know. They're saying that they shot down a balloon, they shot down a drone. The truth is still not out there. However, it was Department of War technology because DHS does not have that technology. And then because of that, that's when the FAA decided to close down the thing because that type of technology used in U.S. airspace for them was unprecedented. And so it was just a whole cluster. It was a mass chaos between three different agencies, CBP, FAA, and the Department of War. And unfortunately, that led to what happened.
Yeah, I mean, some communication is important, and you're going to be firing lasers or whatever into the airspace. Our commercial pilots probably need to know that. Our air traffic controllers probably need to know that anyway. Like, what the hell's going on, right? War of the Worlds in front of the tower. That's no good. But part of this is with respect to those drones. Are those drones strictly sort of surveillance or attempted, as you say, blocking to provide cover for cartel activity on the ground? Or are they weaponized? Do they pose like some sort of air fight threat?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so yes and no. So the Mexican cartels are very smart. They realize that if they make a strike on U.S. soil, it's going to bring down the heat from President Trump. But on the other end, if you look at what's happening in Mexico, so a few of the Mexican cartel organizations sent their sicarios to the Ukraine battlefront to fight for Ukraine. They did that for one specific reason, to learn drone warfare. So what ended up happening, they brought back that technology back into Mexico. They're now using fiber optic drones so that way electronic warfare cannot take them down. And they're conducting drone warfare throughout the entire country of Mexico. If you now see it, you'll see the Mexican federales, you'll see the Mexican Marines and military now have to have counter-drone technology with them everywhere they go because they're getting attacked almost on a daily basis with those drones. And so, yes, they do have that technology. Now, can it happen? 100%. And the reason being is this. Because each cartel owns a certain plaza along the border, a certain region. And if I was a warring cartel, what I'm going to do to force the U.S. government to focus all their efforts on that, I'm going to make a strike in the plaza that a warring cartel owns. What that's going to do is that's going to funnel all of our resources and manpower and attention to that area, allowing myself as another cartel to then operate with impunity. Yeah. This happens quite a bit. This tactic has been happening for a long time, especially like with informants and everything else like that. And now that drone warfare is so prevalent across the globe, we saw We saw it in Syria, where the Syrian government was taken over by 3D printed drones. We see it in the Ukraine battlefield, and now we're seeing it in the Western Hemisphere.
That's really interesting and disturbing at the same time, of course. But the question, of course, is Claudia Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, and her and Trump have had, words on again, off again over the last year. And he believes that basically she's run by the cartels, and we're not getting the cooperation we want in dealing with the cartels. I assume that's fairly accurate. It's been the case in Mexico for a long time. And so then the question becomes what the Trump administration is inclined to do about that.
Yeah, we're dealing with, hopefully you and your audience know, of course, Pablo Escobar. If you guys haven't stopped watching Netflix, go ahead and watch Narcos. But
right.
Colombia Colombia, that region or that era, you had two actual cartels. One, the famous one was Pablo Escobar and the Medellin. But what other people don't realize is they had also the Cali cartel, which operated more on counterintelligence and operated like a foreign intelligence service agency, and where it was complete bribery and corruption. What we have now inside the United States and with the Mexican government is that we have a complete symbiotic relationship with the Mexican cartels, from the federal government all the way to the local level. And so we're not dealing with a Colombia where we were able to go down there and wipe out the cartels with the support of Colombian government. We are now dealing with more like a rich Afghanistan next door, where the foreign terrorist organizations are, like I said, a complete symbiotic relationship with the government. And so when we're dealing or trying to shut down cartel activity inside of Mexico and that sanctuary that they have, is difficult when the president themselves and also the elected officials may be in bed with them. And so and also realizing that the Mexican cartels are not just in narcotics, that they're not just in smuggling human beings, but they actually are in every single facet of society in Mexico, and then also everything that is protected under the U.S. MCA agreement being imported into the United States, to include our food. And so the cartels own every one of those aspects, especially Cartel Jalisco New Generation owns a majority of all the citrus coming into the U.S., every avocado, a majority of the cattle and beef that are coming into the U.S. is all cartel controlled. And so when you look at that and you see, oh man, as a country, how do we attack this situation when we know that we're dealing with a federal government that's completely subsumed by the foreign terrorist organizations that controls every facet of society, and that unfortunately we rely on and are dependent upon for those imports. Like, for example, our agriculture, we cannot feed ourselves. We have destroyed our domestic supply chain because with foreign imports, and now we're dependent on foreign terrorist organizations to feed us. So realizing that we are dependent on foreign nations for a lot of our imports kind of puts us in a bind. And so, just yesterday, it was the Mexican Senate that just passed, because the House passed it before, the U.S. Navy SEALs to go in there and support special operations to counter the Mexican cartels. But if they're only countering them, like I said, at the tactical level, and if they're only countering them using for narcotics, then they're not going after the entirety of their operations, and they're also not targeting the elected officials that are also in bed. So it's a very sticky and difficult situation.
Amon Blair, former military serviceman, former U.S. Border Patrol agent, currently senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Amon Blair, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicago businesses. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. But when it doesn't, who are you calling? At Overseas Help Desk? If you want clear, reliable local experts, consider Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years, from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. We're rated top 5% in customer satisfaction, a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business, and trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Let's talk about making your IT work well. Call 800-654-1555 or visit AccessOneInc.com. That's AccessOneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, talk to the founder of the Acton Institute, Reverend Robert Sirico, about the Jimmy Lai sentencing, 20 years, what the implications are for U.S.-China relations. So what, if anything, President Trump should do about Jimmy Lai getting gulagged for another 20 years, which basically is will be the end of his natural life. That's at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 29 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keen in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Early voting begins today for the March primary elections. Now, when you head out to the polls, you're reminded to bring at least one form of ID to present to the election workers. Those failing to present acceptable ID will be allowed to cast a provisional ballot and bring in their ID before March 24th. Mail-in ballots are currently being accepted as well. If you'd like to vote by mail, your ballot has to be postmarked by Election Day on March 17th. More information on ID requirements, polling locations, and general info can be found at elections.il.gov. The Border Patrol agent accused of shooting a Chicago woman last October has been placed on administrative leave. Officials say that move is consistent with the agency's policy. Agent Charles Exum was placed on leave just one day after body cam video was released, which seems to agree with Miramar Martinez's account that she didn't crash into ICE agents with her vehicle, but rather Exum crashed into her car before he began shooting at her. Martinez's attorney said they are filing a civil lawsuit. This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. Score major deals on top brands at Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. Find your dream mattress today. Their sleep experts are highly trained to find the right one to fit your unique needs. They make sleep easy. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Larry Elder is always good with the stats.
You know that Texas has accounted for 25% of all the ICE arrests. 25%. That's thousands and thousands of deportations. No riots, no mob violence, no churches stormed. Minneapolis represents less than 1% of all the ICE arrests. Yet there are protests in the streets.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey there, Chicagoland. Jeff here from Jeff Buys Your House. For many homeowners, winter can feel overwhelming. There's big bills, unexpected situations, or the stress of owning a home you no longer want. But here's the good news. You don't need to wait for warmer weather to make a change. At Jeff Buys Your House, we make selling simple. Even in the heart of winter, you don't need to fix anything, do any cleaning, and you certainly don't need to worry about unpredictable buyers. We buy houses as is, and you choose the closing date that works best for you. We've made the home selling process easy and stress-free for nearly 2 decades. That's why homeowners trust us, and why we've earned over 400 Google reviews and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. As a veteran-owned business, we handle everything with integrity and care. So if winter is weighing on you, we are here to help lighten the load. Call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com and get your offer today.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
Dan Proft here to tell you about an opportunity for you to promote your business and to make a difference this Christmas season. I'm talking about our Food for the Poor Business Benefactor Program. We've partnered with Food for the Poor to provide life-saving food and water for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean. Your business can be a part of this effort. Become a Food for the Poor business benefactor by making a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. That donation will help more than 30 children for an entire year. And when you do that, AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air here on AM 560 The Answer between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday at no additional cost to you. To take advantage of this deal, just call John Gallagher at 847-472-8950. Again, that's 847-472-8950. One more time, the number, 847-472-8950. Or go to 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. That website again, 560theanswer.com/food for the poor.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, hoping you'll join me on the unforgettable Gulf of America cruise happening in November of 2026. Imagine this: turquoise waters, white sand beaches, incredible food, insightful conversations about the future of America. Scott Jennings and I will be your hosts. We'll dive into the issues shaping America as we cruise through some of the most stunning destinations while honoring the 250th anniversary of our nation. Book your cabin today. Text the word cruise to 94878. Text cruise to 94878 or visit mikeonline.com.
File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction or your money back. File in the Credit Karma app.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. What a mess on the southbound side of Lakeshore Drive. It is solid with a crash at Oak Street Curve. Delays start at Fullerton Parkway, just bumper to bumper. On the northbound side, you're hitting those brakes as you head into Hollywood Avenue. Now, we are doing okay on the Edens, just about 16 minutes both ways from Lake Hook to Montrose. We're looking at 35 minutes in both directions on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 32 in, 17 out on the Ike from Wolf to the old post office. The Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore is 38 minutes. Outbound is 23, 24 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to Burn Interchange, but you are looking good on the outbound side. That's 11 minutes. This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. Score major deals on top brands at Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. Find your dream mattress today. Their sleep experts are highly trained to find the right one to fit your unique needs. They make sleep easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The high will reach 39 degrees. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 28. Tomorrow is said to be mostly sunny with a high of 49. As we head into Saturday, anticipate a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and you know how I love boomer protest songs. And they're multiplying in the direction of protesting ICE and federal immigration law enforcement. And so I bring you the Raging Grannies of Rhode Island. Yeah, you heard me right. The Raging Grannies of Rhode Island, and their offering. See if this becomes an earworm that you wish you never heard.
Group of women who sing for peace and justice. We are horrified and angry about what is happening to our neighbors and friends. We've got to fight back. So we're here in solidarity with all of you to do just that. And we're going to sing a song to you called Stop the Raids.
Stop the Raids. Got it. It goes a little something like this.
There's a madness going round now that ICE has come to town, grabbing folks right from their homes, leaving children all alone. Grannies now are hopping mad, losing freedoms that we had. Fascists doing your cruel raids are making us enraged. Listen, I swear unto you, and the cruel things that you do is well known. Now leave our friends alone. Hear us, I swear unto you, and we know what we're gonna do. We are free and unafraid, and we'll stop your racist raids. Yes, we are free and unafraid, and will stop your racist raids.
Yay! The talk sing at the end was nice. I thought Gertrude was a little pitchy in the beginning, so that probably correct that in rehearsal. For more on this, I'm sure he didn't expect to be asked about the raging grannies of Rhode Island, but that's what I like to do, surprise people. We're going to talk to Reverend Robert Sirico about this, as well as the Jimmy Lai sentencing, as I mentioned, before the news. Reverend Robert Sirico is the co-founder, president emeritus of the Acton Institute, where good intentions meet sound economics. Reverend Sirico, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're a dangerous man to spring out on me like that.
I know.
And so early in the morning.
I know. I understand. Well, I wanted to get. I didn't, want you to come up with a retort in song. I'm not asking for that. But this sort of sentimentality that we get, with these emotionally charged issues like law enforcement generally, specifically immigration law enforcement, to these otherwise nice little old ladies, I'm assuming, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, I exactly. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt just to be generous. But I mean, what's the Christian Catholic response to this sort of sentimentality that is ubiquitous?
Well, toward the sentimentality, it calls for maturity, an honest reflection on the truth of the situation. And, I understand the emotion. We want to be helpful to people, especially as a Christian, welcoming the stranger. But we do that in a certain way. And the Catechism is pretty clear that the very notion of a nation is to have boundaries. And I think we have to have a much more mature discussion of these important issues, because obviously there's a crisis in the United States in this regard, and I don't think there's a healthy and mature discussion going on. And then, to be honest, on both sides, I think there's been an overreaction in many ways, and let me put it better, a lack of precision about who needs to be removed from the country, or at least that's the impression that people have, that everybody's being, as they say in this song, taken up off the streets. I don't think that's happening, but to the extent that people are being stopped and interrogated who are American citizens, I think we need to bring some clarity to that. But the other side of this, we don't solve problems by being sentimentalist about it, and these grannies don't seem to have enough to do. I mean, I'd be very happy to make some suggestions if they contact me.
When nobody plays canasta anymore?
Mahjong.
Mahjong. But I mean, but you just hear it over and over again, and it generates eye rolls from people who are a little bit, firmer, that have their feet planted a little bit firmer. But there does need to be a response to the bastardization of Scripture, welcoming the stranger,
yes.
And all the no person is illegal, and all of this blather that you hear be put in a Christian context.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why I say it calls for reason and maturity. And I don't see people having reasonable and mature conversations about this. It's this kind of thing, I don't want to say any more about these ladies because I don't know them, so anything I say is...
No, you don't have to. No, just more general. I'm not necessarily in the raging grannies,
No, it's not you. It's me, wanting to say more than I should say. So.
Okay. Restraint is something else that's not part of our discussions either.
Lent is coming up.
Yes, right. That's a good point. All right, let's talk about... Jimmy Lai sentenced to another 20 years for "quote unquote" spreading seditious materials. He should have probably taken the approach of Cato's letters rather than putting his name on Apple Daily, as it turns out. But now he's looking at the rest of his life in a gulag in Hong Kong, and what do you I mean, I just want to sort of give you the floor before I ask questions about it. What your reaction?
Sure. Well, but my first reaction is it was no surprise. I mean, and this 20-year sentence, which is, by the way, for for convictions of this sort is the most severe. Remember, there were 6 other defendants with him, and his is the most severe. And really, with a 78-year-old man, this is in fact a life sentence if this stands. So that's my first set of thoughts. Now, I've been in touch with the family, and they're really serene about this because they're infused with a certain religious moral sentiment about why Jimmy's doing this. I mean, let's just back up for a moment. He never had to do this. He could have left the country at any time. He had the money, he had the means, but he felt a call to stay his ground and defend what Hong Kong gave him. That's the way he put it. Gave him his freedom and allowed him to build a life, and that he wanted to give it back. And I think that is just so incredibly inspiring to have a person like that. He's the Solzhenitsyn, the Mandela of our day, the Sharansky of our day. So it's a very, very sad thing. I don't think the last shoe is dropped on this. There's a real possibility that when President Trump goes to China in April, that there'll be some discussions about this. I suspect that they're being very quiet in order to preserve the power of those negotiations.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to be difficult, because if you really want to try to get him sprung, then you can't, you can't embarrass Xi and the regime, because they'll just dig in.
But another thing, and this is very speculative, but I mean, what happened, was it now 3 weeks ago, with the firing of the generals and whatever has become of them. I think we don't know a lot about the behind the scenes of that, but I think that is a very serious moment for the Chinese. I think that this has now reduced the Politburo to no military people who have military experience in warfare, and also now down to, I think, basically 2 people, which according to their laws, they have to have, I think it's 5. So I think something's going on in China, and I can't imagine that this hasn't escaped the administration's attention.
You mentioned Solzhenitsyn too, and I always go back, and I've made the same comparison you have with Jimmy Lai, and I always go back to something that Solzhenitsyn said in this great speech when he received the Templeton Freedom Prize back, 40 years ago, where he said, if I could explain what happened in the Soviet Union in one sentence, it would be, we forgot God. And it seems to me that's applicable here. I mean, with the Chinese communists, it's the same dynamic, and Jimmy Lai is the same sort of dissident.
I think that is what has Xi and his associates nervous about Jimmy in particular, because he has something sustaining him that transcends what they can put their hands on. I happen to know the books that he's reading in prison right now. They're tomes of theology, and I can sense the inspiration and the moral correctness he's deriving from reading them. So I mean, he's reading Ratzinger, he's reading the Summa Theologicus and Augustine, a whole plethora. His daughter sent me the list of 2 years worth of orders on Amazon, and there were 133 books that he's gone through just in that period of time. So
I'm glad that he's able to get those books in.
Yeah, they let him in as long as they're new books, as long as they're not written in at all. He can read all he wants.
And it's because you're close with the family. I mean, tell us about his family and where they're at, and I know you said there's a sort of serenity that just draped over them. But are they in country somewhere? Where are they? How are they doing? What is their what are they doing to try to not just to free him, but to extol his
awareness.
Extol his example the world over.
Yeah. Well, Teresa, his wife, of course, is in Hong Kong. She was at the sentencing, the verdict. And then his two other main children, he has one who's a bit younger, and he's kind of out of that public role. But Sebastian is a resident of Taiwan, but he's been traveling the world making the case to his father, more on the geopolitical realities of the situation. And then Claire is in between London and the United States. In fact, she was just in our offices in Grand Rapids last week. We were helping her kind of prepare for this, news and to kind of fine-tune her message on this. And she deals more with the spiritual and moral dimensions. I mean, there's so much of what Jimmy Lai is about that is tied up with a sense of spirituality that we think that's important for that message to go to the religious community, and for, in turn, the religious community to write letters, to post on social media and the like, for calling for his release from prison.
Does his wife have any reason to fear the regime if she's still in country, and particularly if the one of his sons is out, sort of spreading Jimmy Lai's gospel, if you will?
Well, I mean, that's been going on for 5 years now, and I think they made a very intentional, by this I mean the family. I don't know what the conversations may have been with the government, but Teresa's agreed not to be involved in any of the kind of public conversation about it. Her role is to maintain her access to her husband and provide him the kind of solace and encouragement he needs. And then the kids are out there doing other things. I should mention, by the way, one very moving and encouraging thing took place in October, when Pope Leo received Teresa Lai and Claire Lai in audience at St. Peter's. So that's the first time Pope has, since Jimmy's been in jail, has mentioned his name. And he's promised the family his prayers, and then who knows what goes on behind the scenes over there as well.
Has he spawned, to your knowledge, any Samizdat in communist China? Anybody trying to emulate what he did, maybe anonymously?
Well, China is a very, as we've watched it over the years, is very intriguing the way protests happen. It seems like they erupt all at once, like they just come out of nowhere. And so I think this is brewing. I've been in touch with people on the mainland recently. There was an announcement about Jimmy Lai, but no details. So I think there are certain people following it. I know that our movie that we produced, The Hong Konger, which people can watch on YouTube, The Hong Konger, which has had over about 6 million views now, that has been seen both in Hong Kong and in the mainland, of course illegally. But that tells the whole story right there.
He is Reverend Robert Sirico, co-founder and president emeritus of the Acton Institute. Do check out that film he mentioned on YouTube at the Acton Institute page, The Hong Konger. Reverend Sirico, thank you as always. Appreciate your time.
Glad to be with you. God bless.
God bless. And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Safety. It's so important at your industrial facility. You need to keep your personnel safe and meet OSHA requirements. One problem with your ladders, platforms, or safety guards, and you could be facing costly fines. Vans Industrial helps you meet OSHA standards to keep your employees safe.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. As a business owner, I realize the importance of keeping my employees safe, and I'm here to offer my expertise. Vans Industrial is a specialty contractor uniquely equipped to design, fabricate, and install safety equipment, including walkways, handrails, stairways, and machinery guards. Our Vans Industrial team can inspect existing systems, engineer solutions, fabricate quality goods, and install them with trained pros, all making a safer environment for your employees.
Call 833-VANS-IND for a free inspection of your facility. Interested in what else they do? Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANS Industrial.com. Quality craftsmanship since 1964.
40,000 people. That's enough to pack Wrigley Field. I'm talking about 40,000 people who realized hip and knee surgery wasn't their only option. There has to be another way. Guess what? There is. They found it at QC Kinetics, an alternative to surgery. I know this because I've met these patients. They are moving better and hurting less thanks to QC Kinetics' advanced regenerative treatments. Surgery isn't always the answer. Do your research and talk with my friends at QC Kinetics. They offer natural treatments backed by real science. They will activate your body's natural healing power. Safe, natural, non-surgical. Osteoarthritis only gets worse, so don't wait. Get started this month. 40,000 people can't be wrong. Before you choose surgery, talk with QC Kinetics and tell them Dan Prof sent you. That's me. Call today, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. Once more, call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, Adam Coleman, founder of Wrong Speak Publishing, on trucking and how it has become a hotspot for illegal labor. Yes, another case study in that with that crash that killed 4 Amish men in Indiana last week. Painting, too, bring you an Alabama story. Adam Coleman at 8:08. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Still no suspect or person of interest in the search for Nancy Guthrie. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and on day 12, Fox's Matt Finn reports from Tucson, Arizona.
Agents are scouring the area around Nancy's home here and also her daughter Annie's house. So this morning, one of our crew members saw the Pima County forensic team searching Campbell Road, which is a major thoroughfare that leads here into this neighborhood. And then yesterday, also investigators found a black glove about a mile away from Nancy Guthrie's home. The glove could ultimately offer critical DNA evidence.
The man in video footage released Tuesday was wearing black gloves at the Guthrie home around the time the 84-year-old was kidnapped. A hearing about to start in the Senate focused on controversial immigration enforcement in Minnesota that could have Democrats again sparring with ICE's acting director. As the U.S. military continues to patrol off the South American coast where suspected drug trafficking boats have been blown up the past 5 months, 2 American Navy ships collide.
The guided missile destroyer USS Truxtun and the supply-class fast combat support ship USNS Supply collided Wednesday afternoon during a replenishment at sea when ships sail side by side to transfer fuel and supplies. U.S. Southern Command says 2 people suffered minor injuries and are in stable condition, and both ships remain safe to continue operations. The cause is under investigation.
That's Fox's Matt Murphy. Ukraine has bombed a Russian military storage site containing missiles and weapons and attacked an oil refinery, while another Russian barrage overnight hit several cities in Ukraine, including the capital, Kyiv. An athlete from Ukraine who took a stand against the war was disqualified today at the Winter Olympics.
Vladislav Heraskevich was considered a medal contender in the skeleton event, but the International Olympic Committee president, who was waiting for him at the start of the course, told him he has to leave the games in northern Italy. Monday. His specially designed helmet displayed images of Ukrainian athletes killed as a result of Russia's invasion.
That's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 30 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Kane in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Illinois House Republicans are calling on Democrats to oppose new tax proposals. Jim Talamonte reports.
State Rep Dave Severin said House Bill 4459 would impose fees on backyard campfires, and House Bill 5112 would impose taxes on retail carry-out bags.
By the way, Mr. Severin, those s'mores items you just bought at the grocery store, we've got to charge you a bag tax for that. No matter if it's a paper bag, plastic bag, reusable bag.
Early voting begins today for the March primary elections. When you head out to the polls, you're reminded to bring at least one form of ID. Those failing to present acceptable ID will be allowed to cast a provisional ballot and bring in their ID before March 24th. Mail-in ballots are currently being accepted. If you'd like to vote by mail, your ballot has to be postmarked by Election Day, March 17th. For more information on ID requirements, polling locations, or general information, you can visit elections.il.gov. Police in Brighton Park are investigating a shooting last night that's left 2 people dead. Police say a 70-year-old man and 43-year-old woman were both found dead from gunshot wounds to their heads. Area 1 detectives are investigating. Police are not saying what the cause was of a major disturbance that took place at Dunbar Vocational Career Academy Wednesday night. About 30 police cars were lined up outside the building just before 8:30 last night. Police say 2 people have been taken into custody. And is it a bird, a plane, or just an Amazon drone? Officials with the retail giant say Amazon drones will soon be flying overhead in the south suburbs. Those drones will take off from the Markham and Madison fulfillment centers, delivering packages within about an 8-mile radius. The drones are already available in several other cities throughout the U.S., dropping off packages that weigh 5 pounds or less. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of your roads coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Burger King and McDonald's both are seeing better than expected sales. Restaurant Brands, parent of Burger King, says it was helped by its 2 for $5 and 3 for $7 value meals. McDonald's says sales at existing stores were up more than 5.5% in the holiday quarter. Its extra value meal deals are popular, and its holiday-themed Grinch meal resulted in the highest single sales day in McDonald's history. Bitcoin's price is hovering close to the $70,000 mark after the recent sell-off. Nissan is projecting it will lose $4.2 billion this year because of costs related to restructuring. It sold its headquarters and is selling some plants in South Africa. It plans to cut 20,000 jobs over 4 years. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
On Thursday, February 26th, at Benedictine University in Lisle, AM 560 is hosting a Republican debate. Come hear the candidates for governor and U.S. Senate make their cases for why they should win your vote in the primary election. Be a part of the process to defeat J.B. Pritzker and replace Dick Durbin. Tickets are free, but registration is required. Get your tickets today at 560theanswer.com/debate. That's 560theanswer.com/debate.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit AlmostFreeTeeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's Joint Arthritis Treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 five-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain.
Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gaudens and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Ben Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G coverage. What? Franklin wasn't even a president. Hang on to those Benjamins. Dial pound 250, say micro, and save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, micro, to switch to an American wireless company that's truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. After my husband died, the last thing I wanted to think about was money. Ethos made it affordable to get life insurance. Signing up was fast and 100% online. I knew that I could pay our mortgage and have food in the fridge. I could focus on my kids. No one ever tells you how much you're going to depend on that policy. I am so grateful we had coverage.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. That's ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
At almostfreeteeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at almostfreeteeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Now we have a stall on the northbound side of Lakeshore Drive, right at Jackson Drive. It is just solid all the way back to the Stevenson. And then on the southbound side, stop and go. 2 lanes are down at Oak Street Curve with an accident. Delays, they go all the way back to Wilson Avenue. We are doing okay inbound on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes, getting busy on the outbound side at 21. 45 minutes in, 40 out on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange. 38 minutes on the Ike inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 24. The Stevenson is 51 minutes from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 26. 26 also inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 11. News is a service of Woodland Windows and Doors. Welcome a Woodland sales expert into your home. You'll get a no-pressure sale. A product expert, a design consultant, and someone who has your best interest in mind. Visit woodlandwindows.com to get started. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The temperature will reach a high of 39. Tonight will be partly cloudy with the lows of 28. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny with the high of 49. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Been talking about this intermittently over the last several weeks. Illegal immigrants illicitly obtaining CDL licenses and killing people. From Florida Turnpike to California to rural Indiana last week, Johnson County, where that illegal from Kyrgyzstan got a CDL in Pennsylvania and crashed into a transport van, gentleman driving 4 Amish men to and from work. a father, his 2 sons, and a family friend. Killed the 4 Amish men, the last I heard, the driver in critical condition. And this is something the state can do something about. When, after the California crash, Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, put pressure on California, and California is in the process of revoking approximately 17,000 non-domiciled CDL licenses held by immigrant drivers, following federal findings that these were issued with expiration dates exceeding the driver's legal presence in the United States. But, of course, that needs to be done nationwide. And I understand it's not something you can flip a switch, but a big job for the Department of Transportation. And you would think state governments, even sanctuary states like California or, say, Illinois, would want to participate in rooting out those drivers for the purposes of protecting their residents. You would think that. Although it's not limited, by the way, to CDLs. This is, excuse me, an obvious place because, one, there's state licensure, so there's state and federal clawback opportunities. And 2, obviously, you're driving a massive truck, a tractor trailer, and you can't read road signs, or you don't know traffic laws. You do something unbelievably dumb, like try to do a U-turn in the middle of an expressway. That illegal immigrant from India who did that and killed 3 people in a truck that ran into his trailer when he was jackknifed essentially in the middle of an expressway in Florida. And by the way, again, as I recall, the people that were killed in that crash, Haitian migrants. So this is not a race thing. It's a public safety thing. But it's not limited to people that are otherwise working. They're just in this country working to make a living, better themselves. Well, there are limits to that. And it's not just truck drivers. It's painters, too. Listen to this story out of Alabama.
A break in a more than a week-old kidnapping case.
We arrested Juan Guerrera, who we can place at the scene through investigative techniques.
Juan Guerrera out of the hospital after a canine helped law enforcement drag him from under a house in Bay Minette Monday. Investigators say they were trying to stop the car he and his sister were in when he bailed out and ran. He's been charged with 3 counts of kidnapping, though the sheriff isn't saying what led them to those charges. Because at this hour, investigators are still searching for Aurelia Chakak, her teenage daughter Narika, and son, 2-year-old Anthony. Investigators say they were taken from their home on Ben Hamilton Road in Theodore last Saturday. The Mobile County Sheriff's Office jumped into action after finding a master bedroom mattress also missing, blood throughout the home, and their cell phones left behind. Investigators say a search warrant at a home on Clearview Drive turned up this black van.
We do know that there was a black van that was involved at that residence on several occasions the morning they went missing. That's a photograph of the black van that's up there. That is being searched as we speak as well.
And Silverio Garcia is also in Metro Jail. He was arrested on February 3rd for illegal possession of a gun. Sheriff Paul Birch says he is Aurelia's boss and is also dating one of her adult daughters. So far, he's not been charged directly in this case, but Birch is hoping he and Guerrera start talking.
What we've determined thus far is all of these individuals are painters for various construction companies. There's a couple different named paint companies that they kind of go between, and so that their connection, as we know right now, they're all painters.
Search warrants continue. This one today here at Azalea Grove Mobile Home Park. Investigators say it's where one of the suspects is said to frequent. Ultimately, they hope something leads them to find Aurelia, Narika, and Anthony.
We're hoping that someone will tell us where they are. Anytime you arrest somebody, you're in hopes that they're going to tell you what occurred, and then our main goal is to find them safely and bring them back home.
Mm-hmm. A missing mom and 2 minor children, and some physical evidence that suggests concern about their well-being at minimum. Again, not a race thing, public safety thing. And the individual who has been detained and charged, and the individual who is a person of interest who has not been charged yet are here illegally. But they're painters, and they're just trying to make a better life for themselves. For more on the topic, the original topic, but this is of CDLs and the roadways, but this is bigger than that. Adam Coleman joins us, founder of Wrong Speak Publishing, also author of The Children We Left Behind, How Western Culture Rationalizes Family Separation and Ignores the Pain of Child Neglect. Adam, thanks for joining us and appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I know you wrote a piece for the Post on the specific issue of trucking, and New York, Pennsylvania, California, Florida have all been implicated, and other states too, where not just where the accidents occurred, but with respect to the people in this country illicitly obtaining CDL licenses. And, it just undermines, as I was sort of intimating, this idea that just because somebody comes here illegally and goes to work doesn't absolve them of being here illegally, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't present a public safety threat, as we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a really, really massive issue, and there are many victims that a lot of people like to skim over because they're very much so focused on that person, which they have this vision of the American dream, Ellis Island, people coming here looking for an opportunity. But they don't want to consider that some of these people were trafficked here under false pretenses. Mm-hmm. They don't want to consider that they're contributing to a black market where there are people who are part of foreign gangs and mafias, cartels, who are fostering a black market within our own country. So they don't want to consider these things. They want to see it from rose-colored lenses. But what they're actually doing is contributing to the problem. And even for the people who are looking for an opportunity, they're being taken advantage of in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases.
Right. And so, I mean, here again, like if we were able to have rational discussions about policy and even policy changes, it begins with, enforcement of the laws that exist for good reason, as you're sort of describing. And then, look, if you can make out a case for a temporary worker program and abide like the actual strictures of what a temporary program like the Bracero program from generations ago would look like, just like we talk about H-1B, but the H-1B visa program's abused, or we talk about TPS, but the TPS program is abused. If you can make out a case for specific carve-outs for specific reasons for a finite period of time associated with need, in terms of America's interest, then we could potentially have conversations about that. But the approach taken by the open borders, abolish ICE, sentimentalists makes it very difficult.
Yeah, it does make it difficult. And specific to trucking, I think people also need to consider why is this problem seen to become more prevalent now and not, let's say, 20, 30 years ago. It's because 20, 30 years ago, the trucking was more of a high-trust industry. You had to have relationships with people. The floodgates opened with cheap labor, especially when Obama changed the enforcement on it, not the law. The law still stands as far as the English language, but changed the enforcement of it, and it became exploited. So you can have all the laws and regulations, which we all thought trucking is this highly regulated outfit. Well, it's highly regulated, yes, but the enforcement, people would abide by it because at least at one point, we had a relatively high trust environment, and no one wanted to suffer the consequences of going against it. So if you were shut down as an operator, you stayed shut down, and there was a massive risk for you. But if you're a guy who lives in the shadows, it doesn't matter. If you're a trucking company that's operating off of a parking lot address, it doesn't matter to you, right? So the high trust is gone within trucking. So there has to be strong arm enforcement, impound their trucks, find the operators. You have to do these things, hold brokerages accountable.
Yeah, it was interesting because this week the Wall Street Journal opined on Florida's E-Verify law. You know, Florida has been one of the leading states for job growth over the last several years under DeSantis, right there with Texas. But after they passed E-Verify in 23, with a couple of years now under the belt, what the Wall Street Journal writes is the E-Verify mandate makes it harder for migrants to work to support themselves. It adds a burden on employers. E-Verify can also be unreliable because it relies on federal records that aren't always up to date. This means it can disqualify some immigrants with valid work permits. And the Labor Department data suggests that the E-Verify law has harmed job growth. In the year before the law took effect, Florida led the country in job creation, but employment growth fell by half in 24 and has been flat since last February. You know, it's just interesting, the proponents of cheap labor, which is the position that the Wall Street Journal editorial board is taking, because the federal government's data can be unreliable, we should scrap any employer accountability rather than addressing the unreliability of the federal data so that the E-Verify system was more efficient.
Right. I think anyone with common sense understands what this really is. If this is a political thing, it's become a political thing. And in my mind, this shouldn't be a political thing. This should be about the prosperity of American citizens and the rightful laws. If you want to come into this country to become an American citizen and be part of our country, right, we should have the right people come here the right way of doing so. But just because we can get cheap labor should not be the reason why we should ignore everything that we have constructed about this country. So, you know, why don't we just have the argument for slavery? I mean, they're just people who are looking for stuff to do. Maybe that would provide some opportunity. I mean, how far do we want to actually go just to have cheap labor? So it was easy during the 90s to send all of our cheap goods to China and not care if these people are working 80-plus hours a week, getting paid pennies on the dollar, because it's out of sight, out of mind. It's happening here. But no one wants to actually call it what it is because it's become political. So they have to crap all over anything that the opposition is trying to do. Florida, Republican-led right now, so anything that Florida does, they have to find some sort of critique. So the entire economy of Florida hangs on the balance of E-Verify. I mean, I don't believe that for 2 seconds, and I'm not an economist, but no one with common sense would think that. There could be a multitude of reasons as to why the economy in Florida is having some issues.
Yeah, and the racial component that is infused in this. I mean, you've heard the rhetoric, like we all have, that this is just targeting black and brown people because they're black and brown, and this is an intentional infliction of terror on black and brown people because they're black and brown. Everything with respect to law enforcement is rooted in white supremacy, and Jasmine Crockett talking about ICE being the modern day slave patrols and so forth. It's really talk about appeals to the lowest common denominator, going so far as this former New York State rep, Charles Barron, saying recently at a symposium that was about, basically social justice, the same old, same old.
I have the distinct honor to be able to come before you and say I actually lost white population in my community. I lost them. They left. I didn't ask them why. They left. So if you see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 whites in my neighborhood, they're passing through. But that's on a serious note. We got 13.
Yeah, so this was opposing gentrification in part, and he mentioned we have 13,000 elected officials, so now black elected officials, so now's the time to be radical. Gosh, I might ask, you have 13,000 black elected officials, and how is it going for a wide swath of black Americans in major cities like New York or Chicago? I just that the whole, I mean, if you reversed, of course, if a white politician had said anything like that about black people, this would be a national story. But for some reason, that sort of silly identitarian chippiness is something that's embraced, condoned. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a double standard, and admitting that as a black person. There are certain things that we are allowed to say because maybe there's a certain amount of American guilt. There's a pass that's given. But you're right. I mean, if you inverse the color, it sounds like a KKK rally. It sounds like when the KKK was running, the Senate. So, I mean, that's exactly what it sounds like to me as well when I hear that. But one thing I will say, you asked, how's it going? The truth is, when you hear people speak like this who are black, you can almost guarantee them the most corrupt black people you will ever see in public office or in private. That's the truth. They're usually people who are of a particular class, who speak a particular way, and it gains an applause and laughter, as you can hear there. But guarantee they're the most corrupt, inept people that you would ever want to encounter. You never want to give these types of people power. So whether they're white or black, if I see someone speaking this particular way in front of a particular crowd, that is a dead giveaway that this person is corrupt. So, you think of Al Sharpton, corrupt as they come. The list goes on.
Adam Colma is the founder of Wrong Speak Publishing, author of The Children We Left Behind, How Western Culture Rationalizes Family Separation and Ignores the Pain of Child Neglect. Adam, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Adam joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this past year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. So they are bringing back the mega sale. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $14.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the made in the USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $34.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
If you think smart home technology is complicated, overwhelming, or crazy expensive, you haven't been to Cole Digital. At Cole Digital in Frankfurt, smart living isn't about flashy gadgets or blowing your budget. It's about making your home more comfortable, more functional, and more enjoyable, simply and affordably. And there's no better place to experience that than their 13,000 square foot design center, the most impressive technology showroom in all of Chicago. You'll walk through 30 fully designed rooms featuring audio, video, lighting, automation, and ideas you can actually use in your home. Every project Cole Digital does starts with a blank canvas and becomes a one-of-a-kind masterpiece designed around your style and vision. So if you're looking for inspiration, planning a remodel, or just want to see what smart living's really about, visiting Cole Digital in Frankfurt needs to be on your February to-do list. Learn more and plan your visit at coledigital.com. That's K-O-L-E digital.com.
If you're over 40 and plan to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've built becomes just as important as growing it. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They help investors reduce risk by adding gold and silver to their portfolios. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making investment decisions.
Temperatures are cooling, but not concerns about inflation, market volatility, and taxes. Revisit your financial plan this winter. BestGen Wealth Partners work with individuals to develop personalized plans that help navigate changing conditions with confidence. Visit GetRetiredStayRetired.com to learn more.
Advisory services offered through BestGen Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and BestGen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. BestGen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax legal advice.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-682-3311. That's 800-682-3311. 800-682-3311.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, we'll talk a little bit of entertainment and politics. And see if Billie Eilish has given up her home to the Tongva tribe since she built that house on stolen land. We'll check in on that. With Christian Toto, Hollywood and Toto. Christian Toto at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 30 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. The Chicago woman shot by immigration officials last year is suing the Trump administration. Fox 32's Chicago's Terrence Lee has the story.
Body camera video released Tuesday shows what happened last October. Martinez followed Agent Charles Exum's vehicle for 15 minutes, honking to warn the community about ICE being in the area. The video shows him steering left into her car, then shooting 5 times as she drives by. Commander Ravino emailed the agent praising his excellent service. Her attorney says Martinez wants to push for accountability.
Amazon drones will soon be flying overhead in the South suburbs. Officials with the company say the drones will take off from the Markham and Madison fulfillment centers, delivering packages within about an 8-mile radius. Drones are already delivering packages in several other cities across the U.S., dropping off packages weighing 5 pounds or less. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Big savings on full mouth dental implants are here at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Medical insurance can make what used to cost a fortune surprisingly affordable. Don't wait. Take the 60-second quiz to see if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher sees the hypocrisy spread pretty thick.
These Democrat leaders all have armed protection. It's a scary world. I don't want one hair on anybody's head harmed, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. I'm glad they've got armed protection. But do you recognize the absurdity of denouncing law enforcement when you are protected by law enforcement?
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Alex Marlowe at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
When someone you love is living with memory loss,
Finding the right care isn't just important, it's everything. At Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace, memory care isn't an add-on, it's all we do.
When Mom moved into Terra Vista, everything changed. She's safe, engaged, and surrounded by people who truly understand dementia. And I finally get to just be her daughter again.
Terra Vista was built specifically for caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, with secure indoor and outdoor spaces, innovative therapies, and a community that feels like home. Residents stay active, connected, and respected every single day.
And the best part? Mom can live with dignity, and I have peace of mind.
If memory care is in your future, choose the community designed for it. Choose Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace. Schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM 560 sent you. Terra Vista, where memory care lives.
Sean Thompson here, and with me today is my friend Dr. Michael Huber, who is one of the creators and developers of Virago. So Dr. Huber, why don't you tell us what Virago is, what inspired you to create it, and the benefits of it?
I created Virago with 23 natural ingredients that work together to create this immune response in the body. I created it to fight viruses in the beginning, and it's turned into a huge immune booster in a liquid form.
Right, and why a liquid versus a pill?
A liquid provides a rapid response time in the body, and it's optimal for absorption. When you swish it and it's in your mouth, stimulating the bitter taste receptors, you get a rapid response. Like within 15 minutes, you can have a decongestion in your nose.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And now you can order a bottle at myvirago.com. Myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Virago and Maha.
Maha starts with Virago.
Making America healthy again.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackwork Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Stop-and-go delays northbound Lakeshore Drive from Foster Avenue to Hollywood Avenue. Watch out for a collision on the inbound side of I-57 at 107th Street. There's a crash on the Stevenson inbound at Cicero Avenue. 55 minutes from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 29. 30 minutes in on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Bird Interchange. Outbound looks good at 11, but stop-and-go in the express lanes. Inbound between 59th Street and 31st Street. 41 minutes inbound on the Kennedy from Montrose to the Bird Interchange. Outbound is 14. The express lanes hitting those brakes from the Edens to Ohio Street. 48 minutes on the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office. 25 on the outbound side. This report is sponsored by Straight Talk Wireless. Every now and then you find a deal that actually feels like a win. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get more and pay less. Now that's a good deal. No contracts, no credit checks, no surprises. All on Verizon's 5G network. Find it in the same place you've always found straightforward prices, exclusively at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a dense cloud cover in the morning, gradually clearing to reveal some sunshine later on. The high will reach 39 degrees. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 28. Tomorrow is said to be mostly sunny with a high of 49. As we head into Saturday, anticipate a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Somewhere in this darkness, there's a light that I can't find. Well, maybe it's too far away. Or maybe I'm just blind. Maybe I'm just blind. So hold me when I'm here, love me when I'm wrong. Hold me when I'm scared, and love me when I'm gone. Everything I am and everything in me wants to be the one you wanted me to be. I'll never let you down, even if I could. I'd give up everything, if only for your good. So hold me when I'm here, love me when I'm wrong. You can hold me when I'm scared, you won't always be there.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. I mentioned this on Monday when we were all doing the post-Super Bowl post-mortem. And particularly on the halftime show and Bad Bunny. We should have been talking instead, celebrating the work of Brad Arnold, the frontman for Three Doors Down, who passed away way too young, cancer, at the age of 47, 48. Like James Vanderbeek yesterday, too, the announcement that came over the transom that he had passed away from colorectal cancer after a fight, a couple years long fight against that disease. Anyway, Brad Arnold, I mean, in addition to producing some beautifully haunting power ballads with Three Doors Down, good old Mississippi Boys. Just something else. Coming out of the entertainment world, it's you try to find silver linings where you can, and there are some. Now, he was one of them. Last year, on the diagnosis that he had kidney cancer, he took to social media to announce, unfortunately, they would be having to cancel tour dates.
Hey everybody, it's Brad from Three Doors Down. I hope you're having a great day today. Got some not so good news for you today. And so I'd been sick a couple of weeks ago and then went to the hospital and got checked out and had actually got the diagnosis that I had a clear cell renal carcinoma that had metastasized into my lung. And that's it's stage 4, and that's not real good. But you know what? We serve a mighty God, and He can overcome anything. So I have no fear. I really, sincerely am not scared of it at all. But it is gonna force us to cancel our tour this summer, and we're sorry for that. And I'd love for you to lift me up in prayer every chance you get. And I think it's time for me to go listen to Not My Time a little bit, right? Thank you guys so much. God loves you. We love you. See you.
And here are the kind of things that he would say, riffing with the audience at Three Doors Down concerts. You can distinguish that from the venal and the profane and the cheap political rap that you get from so many other artists.
We're surrounded by a world, we're surrounded by mainly these phones in front of us that constantly tell us that we'll never be enough. We'll never have enough, never be rich enough, never be strong enough, pretty enough, whatever it is. My friends, I just want to share something with you. I want to tell you that that's a lie, because you are enough, and I promise you that. And you are enough for one reason, and that's because Jesus Christ loves you. He loves you just the way that you are, standing there right now, and He also loves you so much that He's not done with you. He's not going to leave you right where you are right now. When we look back on the Bible, you hear them now called disciples, and yeah, they were His disciples, but back then they were just His buddies. And one of His closest buddies, John, identified himself as, I am the one that Jesus loved. That's what he called himself. It also says we all get the chance to be the one that Jesus loves. Right here where we're standing. He didn't say that because he was Jesus' favorite. He said that, or out of his ego. He said it through his brokenness, that he knew through all of his faults. Every time he failed, just like I failed and just like you failed, every day, that Jesus still loved him. And we all get that chance. And I also believe that words are the most powerful thing that we have. We speak blessings, we speak curses over our lives every day, whether we realize it or not. And so I want to ask you a very simple but so powerful favor. Will you speak a blessing over your life? One sentence with me tonight, please. Would you do that? Just simply repeat after me, my friends. I am the one that Jesus loves. Amen, my brothers and sisters. I love you. Thank you so much.
For more on this, pleased to be joined by Christian Toto, host of the Hollywood in Toto, T-O-T-O, Hollywood in Toto podcast, hollywoodintoto.com. Christian, thanks for joining us again, as always. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Bad Bunny. One of the things that you wrote about over at your site was, if you're conservative and you didn't want to see Bad Bunny, or you'd like a halftime show in English every now and again, that's all well and good, but probably not the fight you want to pick.
Yeah, I've got a lot of conflicting views on this. First of all, if an artist comes out and is right-leaning and then everyone on the left cancels him and attacks him and says he can't be here and he can't do that, we kick and scream as people on the right, and I think that's correct. But, if someone is on the left and they're going to perform, I think we're kind of doing the same in a sense. And also, Bad Bunny, it looked like he might do X, Y, or Z on the Super Bowl stage, but he didn't. It was a lot of Puerto Rican pride. It was a lot of joyfulness. Listen, the lyrics, I understand, some of them were a little bit adult in nature.
Yeah.
But by golly, the sad thing is that that's just par for the course of music these days, and I don't love it. I don't love that a mainstream audience with a bunch of kids in it are going to get that, but most of them probably didn't even understand it, and it's just where music is in 2026. The grabbing of the crotch kind of a thing. So I just don't want conservatives to jump the gun. I think we should process things a little differently, and we shouldn't be so knee-jerk in our reactions. Listen, I don't think Bad Bunny has brilliant takes on politics. I think he's ill-informed, big time. But the bottom line is the show was fine.
Yeah, I mean, no, I was just happy there was no wardrobe malfunction. I was a little concerned about that. So I was, I had low expectations. But no, and I think part of it too is like, let's look for the artist to extol, particularly in context like Brad Arnold and Three Doors Down, and not nearly as many people have exposure to them, even though they were a popular, successful band. But the other thing you have to confront, I mean, to your point, and I made this as well, is like, I don't know how to break it to you, but Bad Bunny is the #1 streamed artist in the world. So, so we need to have a larger conversation about extolling people and work product that degrades our culture and defiles ourselves, as opposed to things that don't.
Yeah, I agree. In playing those clips from the late singer, artists can use their platforms for good. They can uplift. They can share positive messages. When Michael J. Fox is diagnosed with Parkinson's, it's a terrible thing. But what he's done in creating a foundation is he's helped others who have suffered from that and are suffering, and maybe he's working toward a cure. So, I mean, to dismiss celebrities, I think isn't right. But also, a lot of them use their platforms for good, and some of them just don't. Some of them are divisive. The Bruce Springsteens of the world, ranting and raving on stage and not really having cogent arguments and getting the facts wrong and not understanding the big picture. I got a problem with that. I really do. But it's not what they all do.
No, and some of it they're almost cartoonish. I mean, they're caricatures of themselves. Like last week, I mean, Gus from Breaking Bad talking about leading the revolution in the streets while wearing a cravat on a red carpet. I mean, you come on, dude. At least make an effort.
It's a great point, and also, if Saturday Night Live was actually still Saturday Night Live, they would feast on these discrepancies. They would feast on these celebrities calling for revolution from the comfort of their red carpet appearances. I mean, that's great comedy. That's great satire. At least the material is there, but they ignore it. But at least we can talk about it.
Another silver lining you wrote about is the Melania documentary. And boy, I haven't seen it yet, but the Melania doc is exceeding expectations, much like Sound of Freedom did, and maybe for the same reasons.
Yeah, at some point, I think people do respond to it. Listen, my mom is 83 years old. She went to see it, partly because I gently said to her, Mom, you're sending a message if you go see that movie. We'll get more movies like it. And that does matter. It really does matter. And the fact that the film is overperforming is a message. But I think, the response to it, I think, was so fascinating because it wasn't just getting bad reviews. They were comparing the movie and the content and this and that to Nazis. I mean, it's exhausting. It's silly. But it's also, it's exposing the rot that is in entertainment media journalism. They can't just treat this as a film. They've got to go to war with it. And I think that just shows how silly they are.
Yeah, and it's a bad target for them. You're talking about bad targets for us, like Bad Bunny.
Yeah,
in that context, Melania is a bad target because you may revile Trump, but there's a lot of people that don't like Donald that at least have enough respect for her and the way she carries herself and the choices she makes to communicate, which are not often, but when she does, it's really hard to dislike her or to not appreciate the way that she carries herself and presents herself, generally speaking.
Completely agree. You know, first ladies are a different breed in a sense. They have a different mission. They have a different purpose. Listen, I think Michelle Obama has really embarrassed herself with her comments over the last few years. She's out of touch. She's elitist. I mean, I could go on and on. You know, as a first lady, I thought she was perfectly fine. She wasn't divisive. She was a different kind of personality than she is today. And Melania is very similar. And yeah, she really hasn't given us much to hate, except the people who hate Trump just take all of that anger and they post on her. That's not right. It's just not right.
Yeah. You also wrote, too, since the Epstein files are, back front and center in the news. They never really went away, but they're front and center this week with Bondi testifying before congressional committees. The problem they have trying to say that Trump is the head of the pedophile protection party and all of the other demagoguery is that Trump was ahead of the learning curve on Jeffrey Epstein, and we even have reporting from Julie Brown of the Miami Herald that about this call he made to the Palm Beach Police Department shortly after Epstein was convicted of being a pedophile, basically.
It's amazing that this story can come out into the public and that 98% of the media will ignore it, and then 99% of late night will ignore it as well. I mean, it's almost a smoking gun in the opposite way, basically clearing him. But the bottom line is we haven't had any proof at all that Donald Trump is associated with this. And also we have all the proof in the world that he isn't, because the Biden administration had 4 years to let loose this information, and they didn't. Do you think they'd sit on it? Do you think they'd hold it back? I mean, it just answers itself.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're watching, some reviews. I do have to say, just following up on what you said, I saw Marty Supreme recently. That was good. And you know what was interesting about some of the cameos? I was surprisingly impressed with Kevin O'Leary, as the Penn Company CEO in that. That it was good. George Gervin. How about George Gervin? I loved it. I'm like, is that George Gervin? It was a cool. It wasn't what I was expecting, even though I sort of knew the plot. And Chalamet was good. That's a good film.
It is a really good film. And O'Leary's performance wasn't like, oh, they cast this odd person who is not known for acting into a role. It just felt seamless with the rest of the movie. I'm going to mention a couple of films. Wuthering Heights is opening this weekend. Listen, if you're looking for a Valentine's Day movie, this is it. It's very combustible, The Two Leaves. That's Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. And it's funny, when Jacob Elordi appears mid-film after they took his beard off, they give him like a nice, old school attire, the audience I was with gasped because he's a good-looking guy. So if you're looking for good-looking people flirting on screen and having that kind of chemistry, I recommend it. But if you're looking for something wildly original, it's flawed, but Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die opens this weekend. Sam Rockwell plays a man from the future trying to warn the present that we're on a path to destruction. It's based on partly AI is involved with the story. It's wild, it's wacky, it's fun, it's satirical, but it goes on way too long. But again, there's so many formulaic stories out there, I can't help but gently recommend that one as well.
Sam Rockwell, I really enjoy him. He's very good. I can't think of a Sam Rockwell film that I didn't like. Really good.
Yeah. If you never saw way back, check out that one. It's an excellent film. He's got a co-starring role, but it's great.
That was with Steve Carell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was excellent. That's a good example of what I'm talking about. Right? He's always very interesting. One other film I saw, now this is not exactly new, but I don't know if we've talked about it, and I'm going to share it just because I was so surprised again. So Song Sung Blue, the neat story about a real life Neil Diamond tribute band in Milwaukee. Hugh Jackman and Goldie Hawn's kid, Kate Hudson. I never thought I would say this. Kate Hudson was terrific. That was a terrific movie.
I agree, and I never thought I'd say that about Kate Hudson. And by the way, she got an Oscar nomination, Best Actress. That came out of the blue, richly deserved. She's terrific in it. Listen, Hugh Jackman's always solid.
Yeah, he's good.
But I just don't think much of Kate Hudson as an actress. She's perfectly fine. She's lovely. I have no issues with her. But she's never someone I point to and say, oh, that's a great performance. But that was a great performance.
It really was. I was blown away. I was so surprised because the expectations were so low. One series I wanted to ask you about, I don't know if you're watching it or you watched the first season, but it's just weird because there's almost like a decade between seasons. Tom Huddleston is the night manager. I love the first season. I think it was, back before Netflix and Amazon. It feels like it was that long ago. And the second season just released in the last month or so, and I didn't know if you were watching that.
No, I'm not. And tell me, is it worth revisiting? Or, I know the first season had big acclaim. Is it the second season worth, is it?
Yeah, and huge.
Jumped, or?
Well, I haven't watched it yet because I talked to another friend who had the same opinion of the first season that I did, and Hugh Laurie was great in it too. But so he said, you know what, I had to go back and watch the first season as I started watching the second season to make sure I could bring the continuity to the second season. So I guess that's what I'm going to have to do.
Yeah, gotcha. No, it's an embarrassment of riches on the TV front and often not so much on the movie front. But Songs on Glue is really good. And also, Send Help is out there. I don't know if you and I had a chance to talk about that one. It's a new Sam Raimi movie. Very enjoyable. It's got survival themes. It's got some dark comedy. It's got some blips of horror. It checks a lot of boxes, but it's just wildly entertaining.
Okay, Send Help. All right, and that Rockwell movie. All right, thank you for the recommendations. As always, Christian Toto, host of the Hollywood in Toto podcast, hollywoodintoto.com. Christian, thanks as always.
My pleasure.
And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Stay tuned for a special message from Angel Dad Joe Abraham about his daughter Katie.
Put yourself in my shoes. I just spent my first Christmas without Katie. My daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant Governor Pritzker protected. Imagine her final breaths, knowing that you would have given your life for hers, but you didn't have the chance. Put your child in Katie's shoes. Think of the unfulfilled dreams, the unrealized joys, and the permanent loss. I'm not a political guy, but when politicians unleash violent criminals, we all need to get involved. We can do better, and we must do better. Ted Dabrowski would have protected Katie, and he'll protect your children the way I wish someone had protected mine.
I'm Ted Dabrowski, and I approve this message.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results, done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com, and schedule your free in-home consultation today.
AM 560, The Answer.
Text from 847. Can you start posting your and Christian's movie TV recommendations so we can follow along? Yeah, I'll post them on X, and I'll post what Christian had to say as well. Christian Toto is always good, really enjoyable to speak with, as all our guests were this morning, and you, the listeners, too. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll close out the week tomorrow, right here, same time, same place. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. An ICE pullback in Minnesota. I'm Dave Anthony.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
That's Border Czar Tom Homan. After all the anti-ICE protests over immigration enforcement tactics and 2 deadly shootings in Minneapolis.
As a result of our efforts here, Minnesota is now less of a sanctuary